There we go. Hi, Videoland. How are we doing tonight?
Hi.
I've been under the weather. That's why we're a little behind. We'll get caught up soon, I promise. Okay. Wow. How many pounds do they say the camera puts on? It must be Christmas weight.
It's all. We have a filter over you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that makes me feel better.
see, I look bigger than I am because I got layers on me. So.
Oh, is that it? So you're an onion?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you guys ready?
As opposed to a pear.
You know, just like an onion, as his layers come off, I cry.
I'd cry too.
Wow. Welcome to 2018, people. GalaxyCast gets real. So that's why I cry every time we come back costuming. Yeah. You peeled your layers.
But that's because of the smell, though.
Well, that's a different story. I mean, when your clothes can stand by themselves, there's something to be said there.
Well, that's true, but it's usually after 12, 14 hours.
This is true, in Mando.
Yeah.
Without peeling. Okay, here we go. Hey, GalaxyCast fans! Welcome to this episode of the GalaxyCast number 204. I have with me 4 people in the studio tonight. I have with me Eric the Artist.
Hey, everybody.
I have with me Gary the Stud.
That'd be me.
And we have a guest artist today. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Sean.
And Sean's here tonight is kind of our guest in pro and say, I guess, because he watched The Last Jedi with us,
yes.
So he's here excited to talk about The Last Jedi.
So just a little background on Sean. We go way back, and to show you how far back we go, I met him, was it 9th grade?
Before that.
It was like 9th or 8th. It was before 83, though, because 83 was Return of the Jedi. I didn't know him yet. But it turns out that a couple years later... Hey.
Sorry.
Oh. What are you doing? You don't want my story?
Say it again.
It turns out that a couple years later, and I didn't know this until I found this out, we were both in line for Return of the Jedi at our local mall, and we were about 10 people apart from each other, from what we figured
really?
where we were sitting in line. He was there with another guy who's now my good friend named Bruce. So we all saw Return of the Jedi in the theater, and I know we were that close because you said you didn't make it into the first showing by how many people ahead of you?
Very close.
Like 3 or 4 or 5. Yeah. And I know when we got in, they cut it off about 10 behind us.
No,
so he was within 15 people. And so that's how I learned, we were in the same line together. So we go way back. We saw Return of the Jedi opening night, and we're longtime Star Wars fans.
See, Star Wars brings everybody together.
It does.
Well, let me introduce myself now. I'm your host, Bob Chrisman. We wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to meet our new people today. So tonight, we're going to be kind of splitting this podcast. I know all of you at this point have seen The Last Jedi. At least you better have, because if you didn't, turn it off, wait, go see The Last Jedi, then come back to this episode, because we're going to spoil the whole thing for you if you don't. So just warning you in advance. So we got a couple things we want to talk about tonight. The big thing we're going to talk about is the Han Solo movie. Why? Because we can. And there's lots of information out there.
Thank you, Lego.
Right? Yeah, thank you, Lego. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So we can. And that's going to be the first half of the episode. And we decided we're going to dedicate our whole second half to The Last Jedi, because I know we all have lots to say, and I know we're clamoring at it.
Yes.
And the ironic thing is, we haven't talked about it.
No.
I'm excited because everybody in this room actually went and saw The Last Jedi together. Now, if you remember, back at The Force Awakens, none of us watched it together. We all went and saw it at separate times. I still think that had an impact on some of your points of view on that movie. Sorry, I just really think it did. Eric's laughing going, no, it didn't.
I don't.
But I've seen it since, so...
I have too. I've seen The Last Jedi twice.
No, I've seen Last Jedi still once.
Okay.
I meant Force Awakens.
Force Awakens you've seen since, right? I still want us to watch it at some point together.
Yes, I agree.
And see if if it changes your viewpoint on it slightly by watching it together. So we'll do that probably this summer at some point in time when we don't have any more Star Wars Rebels to cover, and we're going to be looking at other things like Star Trek Discovery and some fan films, but I figured The Force Awakens might be a nice summer film for us to review at some point.
Sure.
So let's hit up our big topic for the beginning of the show. We're going to talk about the Han Solo film. And it's just called Solo, and that's so weird. It's still throwing me off that we're calling it Solo. Does that upset you guys? Like, that there's not some sort of cool, theme to it, or some sort of cool, Solo. I mean, that's it. That's all we get.
Solo, a Star Wars story.
I don't know. I wanted more. I just wanted more.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder, because now they're saying it's very, very much looking like there's going to be an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie.
Correct.
With Ewan McGregor.
Yep.
Is it going to just be called Kenobi? Is that going to be the way they're going to do these?
No. They're going to think outside.
Is it just going to be called Fett if they do a Boba Fett movie?
Sure.
Why not?
My backpack's got jets.
I'm Boba.
The Fett.
Thank you, MC Chris.
Thank you.
Han Solo was always solo because he was, rogue. He was on his own, and he was his own guy. He was not part of the rebels or anything.
So there's a double meaning to the title.
Yeah, so I mean, but you look at the cast for the new film, and it's big. So I don't know.
Solo and all his friends.
Right, I know. It's like, yeah.
Maybe we'll find out that his real name is like Spicy Wiener or something. No, really.
Right, and then Woody Harrelson's going to be, we named the dog Spicy Wiener.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that dog.
Oh my, this is just too much. 2018 is a little out of control here. So, there's a lot of things going on here, and a lot of it we can actually thank Lego for. So to start this off, let's talk about how some of this information got revealed. It was all a big old accident.
All I know is, like, when you if you can edit this,
Yeah.
right after you say we can thank Lego for that, you need to find that big whoopsie and put it right in.
I can put it in
edit
there.
that sound
Yep.
in because
So we can thank Lego for this because Lego did a big whoopsie. They released their product line for 2018 like any company would do. They're excited. They've got new stuff coming out. There's lots of Marvel stuff coming out. I mean, I was looking at their lineup going, wow, they've got some really cool Lego toys for Infinity War. And I'm not a huge Lego person. Like, you look at all the collectibles I have. There's not a lot of Legos in amongst my collectibles. But I'm actually, the Avengers Infinity War ones look pretty cool.
do they?
Yeah, and I was like, okay, those look cool. But then I, like everybody else, was scrolling through and went, oh, whoa, there's Han Solo Lego products here. This is kind of cool.
So was this released on their website?
On their website,
Okay.
yes. So it was part of their is it Toy Maker Fair? I think that happens in January. I can't remember the name
Toy
of the show.
Fair.
Toy Fair.
Toy Fair in New York City, though.
Yeah, correct.
Drawn at several times.
Drawn at. Yep.
I'm not this year, as far as
Not
I
this
know.
year.
But
Okay. So this was like their pre-Toy Fair stuff. So basically, this was the online release of the information, and you can go to Toy Fair and you can get a chance to see it in person and live it right there. Well, in the process, they basically released all this information about the Han Solo film, the character names, some of the ships you're going to see. Apparently, there's a new type of stormtrooper we're going to see. There's definitely TIE fighters in it because there's two types of TIE fighters in the Lego products. They're Millennium Falcon, obviously. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But all these other characters got released as well. So Disney, I think, just because they were kind of like, well, Lego let the cat out of the bag, I guess we should just let everybody know this is true. So thanks to merchandise leaks, we now know some information. So we know now that Woody Harrelson is going to play, am I getting this right? He's Tandy Newton, correct?
no, he's Tobias Beckett.
Sorry, he's Tobias Beckett. And so correct me here because I'm still, I'm in the wrong, so we're at the Reddit post, right? Is that what we're looking at? Okay, so Tobias Beckett is going to be played by Woody Harrelson. Clark is going to be played by Kira. I think it's supposed to be Kira. Quay Tulsit.
Other way around. Kira is going to be played by Clark.
Thank you. Kira is going to be played by Clark. That's true. Quay Tulsit is going to be played by Newton. DDBD is going to be played by Waller Bridge. By the way, that's supposed to be now the first official female droid in a Star Wars franchise. Moloch and Rebolt were some of the other names that we saw in there. There is a minifigure called the Death Star Trooper. A lot of people are wondering if that means that the Death Star is going to appear. I don't think that's the case. I think the reason they're calling it the Death Star Trooper, there's been some pictures from the set, and it's the guy who's got the bucket on, like the Death Star Trooper. But he's not wearing black jumpsuit, he's wearing a gray jumpsuit. So I think that's why they're calling it a Death Star Trooper, because it has that look to it. It also confirms that Han's homeworld is Corellia, okay? And Mimban, which is going to be a planet that's going to be seen. That's from the Clone Wars, I guess. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, the idea that we're leaking out information this way from Disney. The fact that Lego kind of used it, and released this information.
You got to be, if you're always a conspiracy theorist, was it an accident?
Right.
With Toy Fair coming, Disney's got to know what they're going to have there.
Right.
So, excuse me. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's as big of an accident as they're claiming.
Yeah.
But
There's been no marketing really for the show, so I think maybe this is their marketing a little bit. Yeah, we're waiting for the big push to happen.
That's what there's been a lot of talk about, is why haven't we had a trailer? Why haven't we had promotional artwork? Why haven't we had anything practically than the title? And there's been rumors that they're worried about it bombing, especially after the divisiveness of...
Well, that did come out in a Reddit story just before the end of the year, before the end of 2017, that I was going to point out. Reddit came out with an article that Disney is pretty much planned on Solo bombing.
Which is crazy.
But, I mean, if you look at what they're doing, they're setting it up.
Sorry, I can't stand this.
It's okay.
I think by bomb they mean not making $1 billion.
Well, that's okay, and I'm going to talk about that in a second too, because you're right.
Okay, wait. So what did Rogue One make? What was its final total? It crossed the $1 billion mark.
It did cross the $1 billion mark.
Well, why?
Sure, I'll pull up some of those.
And for that being their first non-major series, it did really well. So maybe for them, a bomb would be $600 million, and they're like, well, that's not what a solo Star Wars movie should be doing. You know, all the movies should cross.
Well, that's, what do you consider a bomb anymore? You know what I mean? So worldwide box office for, you were asking about which one?
Rogue One.
Which
I don't see on there.
it's right here.
Oh, wait, there it is.
$1 billion.
$1
Yeah,
billion.
so it crossed the $1 billion mark.
Crossed the $1 billion mark.
I mean, even domestic, $532 million.
Right.
Domestic, $532 million is nothing to sneeze at.
Correct.
I mean, that beat out Episode 2, Episode 3.
Pretty close to even Episode 5. I mean, that's,
Although, are those adjusted for inflation?
Well, those are the original.
Yeah, so
that's not adjusted for inflation.
Those are
so
probably
you
a
have
lot higher.
Correct. And that's why a lot of people argue, well, A New Hope, it's not fair to compare it to today, because it's not.
Right.
$1 billion movies didn't exist in 1976. That just wasn't a thing. It just, So, I agree with you when you start looking at the marketing side of it and you start looking for the inflation side of it. But so
I dragged you off. So you were saying the article came out about Disney worried about
Correct.
Solo bombing.
Well, think about this for a minute. When's Han Solo coming out?
I don't know.
May?
Is it a May release?
It's a May release.
So it's
The week before Infinity War.
Oh, 2 weeks before, I think.
Or no, sorry, you're right. It's 2 weeks before.
Well, if they've got 2 weeks to rule the box office before they get kicked.
But Infinity War, I mean, once Infinity War comes out, it is going to kick the crud out of the Han Solo movie. So part of me says they're doing that because they don't have the faith in the movie. They already know, looking at the movie, it's not going to pull in the $1 billion they're expecting.
It's got 2 weeks.
It's got 2 weeks to pull it in,
and then it's out. What else is releasing with it?
That's a good question. Let's find out what's going on that weekend.
Anything else those weekends would be a good question.
Again, Google.
I thought Infinity War was coming out first. I could be wrong.
Infinity War is May 20th?
Well, let's find out.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
There'll be some editing in here, YouTube people. We're gonna take all this out.
It's pretty common for us.
We saw the squirrel.
Hit squirrel. Let's see here.
So do they let you go by month? Which would be nice.
I live by the principles of Starfleet.
Catch up on the first 9 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. Exclusively on CBS All Access.
You're still in January.
I'm just trying to scroll ahead. March.
I live by the principles of Starfleet.
Catch up on the first 9 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. Exclusively on CBS All Access.
Yeah, they already had talked about it.
Yeah, that's a God particle.
Yeah.
They don't know what it's about. Okay, so Infinity Wars,
you're right, actually. So
Infinity Wars is coming out
May
on Star Wars Day.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my gosh, that is so ironic. So Infinity War is coming out on May 4th, so that's great. And Han Solo is coming out May 25th.
Okay, so there's 2 weeks for them. You know what, though?
But think about this. Deadpool 2 is coming out on June 1st, a week later. It's in a bad spot. It's not in a great spot, and it tells me that Disney has no faith in the movie.
What's after Deadpool 2? Anything else big?
Morning. Ocean's 8, Incredibles 2, which is another Disney film, June 15th. Jurassic Park. So when you look at the date release, it's just like Disney put it in a spot where they were kind of like, that looks good because it may not do well. When you look at the release dates of these films, I don't think they have a lot of faith in what's going to happen with this movie. I want to have faith in it, but what I'm reading from people who are involved is you don't want to have faith in this movie.
I've even heard that Ron Howard ended up shooting even more than they're admitting. He did reshoots on
So here's what I have.
Let's do an experiment.
I did have a friend I talked to recently.
He has lots of, just so you know, Sean, he has lots of friends.
In the
I'm doing
industry.
air quotes.
Well, and I say that because I don't like to talk about it. I know because it gets them in trouble. But my one friend said that basically, when Ron Howard came on, they started test footages and groupings and stuff like that, and Ron Howard looked at all of it and said,
I thought this was
nope,
hypothetical.
Until next time.
get rid of it
So
all.
it's 100%
What kind of person are you?
They said there's about 1% of the movie. and only because they were clips actually that hit the cutting room floor that Ron liked and brought back. Because they were good action clips that actually had some decent CGI on it. He brought back some of the clips they got rid of and tossed everything into production.
When did this wrap? Do you know when that sometime in the fall, right?
Well, it was supposed to wrap at the end of October. It officially wrapped the third week of November.
Gives them half a year.
Yeah.
A little over half a year.
Yep. Just about 5 months.
Post on it. That's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's not it's not a lot of time. According to the rumors coming out of Disney currently, the upper echelons who have seen it don't like it. They don't like it.
I was thinking that a lot of this was just managing expectations and getting everybody's expectations down so everyone's pleased
Sure.
when they see it finally.
And
Yeah.
that is a big part. I mean, that's huge. If you can do that a bit. But here's the problem. That's a double-edged sword. You manage too much and you don't promote, you don't get your audience.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is a problem that they're trying to balance out right now is promotion versus the name. You know what I mean? It is Star Wars. You know?
I mean, I hear we're trailer any day.
We are. That's what I've heard too. Yep. I was amazed, quite honestly, they didn't throw a trailer in for The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It would have been a perfect place to throw a great trailer in. Even if you just had Han Solo step up, pull out a blaster, and be like...
Give you a smirk.
Yeah, like, I got a bad feeling about this.
Right.
You know, and then Han Solo...
We would have heard that.
Right, like...
We would have got to hear that phrase during The Last Jedi.
Right, you know?
Or just, you never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah. Some.
Or how about the Kessel Run? You know what I mean? Like something. You could have just, like I said, just have the guy come out looking like Han Solo, say something cool.
Because we've still officially not seen him.
No.
And what the look is, and what the hair
Nope.
is, and what his mannerisms are.
And I don't think it's the right guy for Han Solo. I got no expectations for him because of that.
I wanted the guy who played him in Age of Adeline. The guy I showed
Oh,
you,
yeah, yeah.
who does the impersonation.
Yes.
He was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that they got acting classes for him halfway through.
Yeah.
Aaron Ehrenreich?
That's,
Yeah, yes. And the reason being, what the producers wanted him to do with the Han Solo character is not... That's actually what started the whole...
And got the first directors fired.
Correct. He contacted Disney after the acting classes got asked for because they were asking him to go to acting classes because he couldn't pull humor off. And Ehrenreich said, but wait a minute, this is Han Solo.
It's not a comedy.
It's not a comedy. And they were directing it as if it were. There was a lot more humor in it than Disney ever intended.
Right.
And when they looked at it, that's what got the directors fired.
Yeah.
It was basically being thrown out there as it was a Star Wars comedy, almost making fun of Han Solo to an extent.
I mean, maybe even Guardians of the Galaxy's in feel or something.
Well,
really
that
human.
very much is kind of what I'm getting the impression of. Like they were looking like Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. And so that's when a lot of people were like, wait a minute, have the directors even watched Star Wars? You know, like there were some questions on set about, like, had the directors ever seen a Star Wars film? Do they know what they're getting themselves into? I don't think they really did. And I don't think Disney...
And what were they famous for doing? Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's a weird choice to make for, hey, we're going to do a Han Solo movie. Let's do that.
Well, and honestly, I don't think Disney did their homework in picking the directors at first. I just think they picked some young
And
directors to do it. You know what I mean?
This is why when people say, oh, no, they're thinking about the stuff behind the scenes and they're connecting everything, that I doubt it at times, and I worry.
Yep. I get what you're saying. I'm more concerned about we haven't heard other names being dropped. Where's Lando Calrissian?
Right. No, Donald Glover is playing him.
Right, but we haven't heard much about that. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen
And
one
have we
picture
seen
of
him in
I've seen one picture that was a set photo, and he clearly had the mustache, wasn't in full costume.
Okay.
Had the good look. I think he's
right.
going to be the best part of the
Of
movie.
all the characters, he's the one I'm actually least worried about because I think he actually is a fan and he'll make sure.
Oh God, he's going to be great.
Lando will be Lando.
I like Donald Glover a lot, and as soon as they cast him, I'm like, okay, there you go. I can't think of anybody better.
But there's other people that could be in the movie that we're not even hearing about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I haven't heard nothing about Chewbacca either.
I was about to say, we haven't seen.
I mean, it's what's his name is playing it. The new guy,
the new Chewbacca.
the basketball player from Europe.
Yeah,
whatever his name.
and I can't remember his name.
He took over from The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But is he going to be in?
I think
we haven't heard.
he's supposed to be.
I haven't heard nothing about it.
I thought I heard, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
He hasn't even been on the set photo. That's the scary part. So we haven't heard about Chewbacca at all.
Well, what if they're going to pull a Last Jedi and the very last scene is he's going to meet Chewbacca?
Maybe Chewie's going to finally save his life, and that's what starts the life debt or whatever it is. But we haven't heard about Chewbacca at all. We haven't even heard about I don't know, people like Lobot. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things you could throw into this that we're not even hearing. So we're hearing these weird characters' names out of nowhere, and I think that's gonna be a throw off for Star Wars fans.
DDBB.
Right, DDBD or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, EBDB Buck or whatever.
And what about TC-14 there in Phantom Menace?
Yeah,
That'd be the first female droid.
that's true because that
one
was
was
a
that? Which
female
one was
droid.
that?
The one that brought out the drinks for
the drinks
Qui-Gon and
for-
Obi-Wan.
That's kind of a lie, isn't it? Then that's a really a lie.
That was a female.
Do you guys remember the big controversy about The Force Awakens when it first started filming?
The Force Awakens or Phantom Menace?
The Force Awakens. Do you remember the big controversy? BB-8 was going to be a female droid.
Yep.
Oh,
I remember the fans went freaking crazy.
I didn't even hear that until after it came out that it was supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I mean
had no idea.
it was the talk of the town for like 3 or 4 months that BB-8 was going to be this female droid, and it's funny because some Star Wars fans were like, "Oh my gosh, that's awful! Why would you do that?" And other people were like, "This is great and awesome." I remember Gary and I were like, "Who cares? Like, it's a droid. It's not like you're going to lift the skirt and go, oh look, it's a male or a female." It's a freaking droid. It interacts with computer. Who cares?
How about the one that delivered Luke and Leia? Was that a female?
I would think so. Polis Massa, right? I think Polis Massa was supposed to be a female droid because she acts female at least.
I mean, listen to the voice.
Right.
What is it? It was a girl doing it, I think.
Ooby-dooby-dooba. Come on.
I got my oven mitt and my spatula.
Let's deliver a kid.
Come on, bring it in.
So what do you think? What do you think about Solo, about there being no trailer, about the Lego leaking? Does it seem like a huge comedy of errors, or is there a through line behind this that Disney has control of?
Personally, I think Disney is trying to control the press in their own way. I think they're manipulating their press in their own way. I don't think they have any other choice at this point because I just don't think they've got a product to present or we would have seen it.
I mean, we should have seen something at Last Jedi.
And that's where part of me says if they had faith in this, there would have been a trailer in Last Jedi. There already would be a marketing campaign. There would be a ramp up between Last Jedi and the Han Solo movie. I mean, think about it. We're pretty much getting one movie almost right after the other. I mean, I know they're saying it's not in the same year, but considering the release date of The Last Jedi, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's 6 months apart.
It's not even.
Yeah, not even. It's 4, right? 4 or 5. And so when you look at the ramp up, there isn't one. It doesn't exist currently.
So wait, okay. Do you think we're going to get a date change on Solo?
I think it's a potential reality.
All of a sudden, Christmas 2018.
I really think it's a potential reality, and I think we should all prepare for the potentiality that there may be.
I mean, didn't the date change for Rogue One once?
Twice.
Because of the reshoots.
Correct.
It came out okay.
Yep.
I know you didn't like it. I liked it a lot, but
I've gotten better about it.
Okay.
When I first saw it, not a fan. It took me 3 or 4 viewings before I started settling in, being okay with it. Like I don't hate it like I did the first time. The first time I was like, hated it.
That's fascinating.
I know, right?
What didn't you like about it though?
we went over. Well, yeah.
I know. To me, it didn't feel Star Wars-esque. You know what I mean? It felt very much outside of the realm of Star Wars. And I've talked about it before too. Like military-wise, there's some things that still don't make sense. Like why would you go to a tropical planet with heavy winter coats on? Not the smartest plan they've ever had in their life. And then it just seemed choppy. The story seemed very kerplunked and choppy. I know they were trying to parade a through line, but I felt like it was very forced, the through line that was going on there.
No pun intended.
yeah, no pun intended there. And part of me would rather they just had taken the two guys at the temple, just make them Jedi. No, don't make them Force sensitive, whatever you want to call it. Just make them Jedi. I would have actually been cool with that. And then I really don't like the saying, I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. I don't get that.
Right.
Compared to everything else that we've learned about the Jedi and the Force and everything else, it made it feel like religionish-ish, and I've never seen the Jedi thing as being religion. Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay, but you go back to New Hope.
Yeah.
The first thing Han Solo says to Obi-Wan, I don't believe in Hokie religion.
I get what you're saying.
So,
but I think that's an outsider's take on an insider thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's what they're saying he was. He wasn't a Jedi. He was an outsider, so he still treated it kind of like a religion.
I get what you're saying. Trained. I'm just saying that's from, here we go, from Han Solo's point of view, as opposed to being on the inside, where I feel like Chirrut Emwe's point of view was, it was a religion, and he was treating it as such, and I don't think it was ever intended to be that.
Yes, he was treating it as a religion because he's not a Jedi. That's why he was doing it.
Right, and it just felt weird. Like I said, I would have been happier with it if it had just been a Jedi. I'd have been cool with
Any
that.
moment now, I'm waiting for Sean to go, you guys are geeks.
I get it.
So this is what we do, Sean.
Every Friday.
Every Friday.
So somehow we got off of Han Solo. We're talking Rogue One too much. But anyway.
But that's okay.
I get it.
So let me make this one statement first. You're the first person that actually said something other than the fact that I didn't like the characters. Because there's no build-up on them or none. You didn't need that for that movie.
No, I agree with you. Actually, the characters is not the part that bothers me. Actually, I'm fine with the characters.
Everybody complains about the characters. That
I still think K2SO is one of their best characters in years.
Yes.
Maybe that's one of the things that bothers me a little bit, is that the foundation of that movie is a robot. And that bothered me slightly, because humans should have more emotions than a robot.
Right. I agree with what you're saying, but it's...
He wasn't cool. He was cool.
I'm looking at Star Wars as it's told by the droids.
You're right, and you brought that to light to me, and actually the last time I watched that, it changed my viewpoint slightly on Rogue One, because when you look at it from K2SO's point of view, and as opposed to looking at it from the outsider looking in, it is a different movie, because he then becomes the hero, because he died. He sacrificed himself in the efforts to save humanity, which, in that vain look on humanity, it does change the way you look at that film. So you're right, but the problem is, I don't think they presented it so that you could think that way. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I always saw Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Return of the Jedi from C-3PO and R2's point of view. Because I think George Lucas did a really good job of presenting it from that point of view. I think that was his problem with the prequels. He got away from that.
Not really.
Not really, but he did kind of, because C-3PO didn't even come in till almost a third of the way through Phantom Menace. But R2 filled in the gap, and I get that.
It's through R2's eyes, and C-3PO is telling the story. True.
So, I mean, but I think the prequels were disjointed in that fact, as opposed to the first three that were like, R2 and C-3PO were definitely the mainstays, and everybody else was built around that. Where the prequels, that wasn't really the case. Anakin was the mainstay, and everything else got kind of built around that. You know, and I was just talking about that with a buddy the other week too. The prequels were kind of, it was tough no matter what George Lucas did, because we knew the ending to the prequels. We all knew it was going to happen. Anakin was going to become Darth Vader. So how do you tell a story when the ending's already been predicted? And how do you get an audience to want to go to something when they already know what the story arc is? You know, for 3 movies, Anakin's going to move from being this little kid to this bad guy that we all hated by Empire Strikes Back. So it was kind of, and I don't want to say it was doomed, but it's tough to see that happen. That's something we could talk about quick. George Lucas had said over the weekend that he actually admits he made a mistake with The Phantom Menace.
And what was that? What did you say?
Pacing. He totally admitted there was too much going on in The Phantom Menace. It was happening way too fast. And he regrets that. He regrets moving the movie.
The day I sat in the theater, the first time I saw it, I thought, wow, too much happening, a lot going on, a lot of jumps around. Where am I? We hit Tatooine, and I felt like, okay, it slowed down a bit. It stayed with the characters longer. We had the race in the middle, and more happened to get off the planet. I felt like that whole stretch was like, okay, this is all paced about right. Not talking acting or anything, I'm just talking pacing. And then the ending got a bit rushed again.
Right.
But I didn't quite mind the ending because it had a killer lightsaber fight. One
Right.
of my favorites to this day, and I liked the intercutting between that and some of the other fighting. So I was okay with that. But I do feel like it definitely was extremely choppy and way too fast-paced at the beginning. It moved way too quickly until it got to Tatooine, which is stuff kept getting thrown at you.
And he admitted that he pushed the movie story arc very quickly because he was worried that people were going to get hung up on things like the pod race. People were going to get hung up on things like Jar Jar. He actually admitted that he was worried that people would be stuck on this idea that this character is all CGI created and nothing else. And he didn't want that to be the mainstay of the movie. So he very quickly moved through these storylines in hopes that people wouldn't get stuck on these things like pod racings, like NASCAR, and Jar Jar's like, you know, the dumbest character ever. And he really actually was, and he admitted he if he could go back and do it again, he would have changed the pacing of Phantom Menace completely. And he probably made some serious mistakes by putting out the Phantom Menace the way he put it out. And he thinks it sullied the Clone Wars and
Which I'm sure it did.
Revenge of the Sith, and he thinks they might have been more accepted had he handled the Phantom Menace better, which I thought was kind of interesting. I thought that was kind of growing for George Lucas to say, hey, I made a mistake.
Yeah, he never talks about that kind of stuff.
And he never admits he made a mistake. As far as he's concerned, everything's gold he touches.
Well,
so.
he admits he made mistakes because he changes them, but not mistakes. It's just, this is the way I originally wanted
right.
it. I just couldn't achieve it at the time.
Because the technology didn't exist yet, you know. So for him to say that, I thought that was a big deal. So going back to the Solo movie, since that's what we were talking about.
Solo? Oh, yeah.
Stay on target.
Stay on target.
So, what do you guys think? Are you excited about the Han Solo movie? Let me put it that way. I'll go around table on that one. Are you excited about seeing this movie, or do you have reservations at this point? What do you think, Eric?
Right now, I have massive reservations. I got reservations for 12 at a table that seats 2. It's not going to work. I am worried quite a bit about where this is going. First of all, not knowing the tone you were going to get from your first directors. And not only that, did the script allow for that kind of tone? And if so, who came up with the script that... I mean, how much of the story has also changed in the changing of directors to Ron Howard? I'm happy with Ron Howard. He should have been the original choice.
Right.
I would have been much more excited from the get-go if he was doing it. I'm worried about what's going on with the story. Is it going to be a hodgepodge? I'm worried about, that... And like you said, if it's all been reshot, that's great, but is it not enough time to get it ready? I'm worried about the quality of post-production.
Right.
And I'm worried that 5 months out, we haven't even had a teaser trailer yet.
Right.
You can edit that from one shot.
Right.
All you need is some clicking of some boots. He walks out looking like Han Solo from shadow into light, looks at the camera and goes, so, what's all this life day about? And there you go. You got your teaser. But just something where we see him act like... I want to see a smirk, the look in the eye, the sound of his voice, and go, okay, I can buy him as a young Han Solo. And I have none of that yet. So I have no idea. I'm just nervous.
What do you think? What do you think, Josh?
I'm happy to see it. I'm excited to see it. I'm going in with my expectations in check. I wouldn't be surprised if I was disappointed in it, but I don't know that I'm expecting to be disappointed. I think it's going to be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gary, what do you think?
No expectations for it at all.
Do you think that's good or bad? I mean, I know you said that before, but do you think that's good going in with no expectations?
I had no expectations for Last Jedi, and I liked it.
Okay. I'll admit I'm a little worried about it. Part of me says, if it's really as bad as corporate saying, like if nobody at the top likes it, Disney's really not a fan of it, then part of me says, don't put it out.
Right.
Like if you really have reservations about it.
Move the date.
I would rather you pull the whole movie.
But that's also...
I know we're talking about money here, but
not just money, that is like movie suicide.
I get
it's
it.
gonna be hard to come back.
But I have some counter arguments to that. My first one is you just made $1.2 billion off of The Last Jedi. Matter of fact, in the last 4 years, you've made enough money to have already purchased Star Wars, and everything from this point forward is pure profit.
Yeah, they've paid off the Lucas
purchase in 4 years. Mm-hmm. Remember we said we didn't think they'd do it in a decade? 4 years. So part of me says you're already on the up and up. So to scrap a movie at this point, I don't see it as a loss if it's not going to generate revenue for you. And I'm worried that it's not. And I know that's crazy to say, well, it's not going to cross the 1 billion mark. But that's Star Wars. Star Wars always has been kind of the top. And if you come out and Avengers Infinity War crushes the Han Solo movie, the question you have to start asking yourself for Disney is, do we put less money into Star Wars and more money into Avengers? Because that seems to be where people are at. They're not with Star Wars anymore. They're with Avengers. What does that say about the market? You know what I mean? Like, there's weird things here that this could all have an impact on. Part of me says, I would rather see them, and I know this is suicide, scrap it. Scrap the entire thing.
A filmed, complete movie.
Keep Ron Howard. And say to Ron Howard, it's your baby. Recast. Do it your way. Find some writers. Write the Han Solo movie you want to do. Find a new set of actors and actresses. Do it your way. And I know that's crazy.
I'd love to see it. Never going to happen.
Crazy.
Never going to happen.
I know.
If they did that and said, we're doing this because we respect the fans and we want to give them the best product possible.
Now, I do have an answer to that. 2 words. Ant-Man. It's been done. And it's been done successfully and by Disney.
But it wasn't a completed film.
It was halfway there.
Edgar Wright never directed any. He was out. That's why he was upset. He got out of the project before the production started.
That's right, before the production started.
He did 8 years of pre-production.
Correct, that's right.
He was on that project for 8 years.
Right.
And like
on writes and rewrites and
previs,
right.
and there was released test videos and everything that got shown of the stuff he was working on. And then it was like 6 months before production was going to start. He was out, and someone else came in. It was 6 months to a year at the most, and a movie was made. Changed somewhat, but using a lot of his ideas and stuff like that. But
it still worked.
It worked. It worked very well.
It was a huge risk by Disney, but it worked very well. And part of me says if you can do that with Ant-Man, then maybe it's time to be thinking about the fans and not the production. And maybe for the fans' sake, you pull it.
I think much more realistic is the idea of doing a 5-month delay and doing it as a Christmas release.
Okay.
I don't think that would kill the fans. I think they kind of expect Star Wars movies at Christmas now, and it's okay if you do that. That's kind of cool. I think they could play off that very easily. I think it vanishing from the summer schedule would not. It would make news for a week, and then people would be like, okay, let's wait until we see more stuff.
I don't see why they wouldn't put it out at Christmas. They control all these other Disney movies that are so close to it. So change it up.
And that's part of it too. I mean, with Disney acquiring Fox now, who do they have to compete with other than Universal? I mean, that's pretty much it. They've got control of the box office, quite honestly. I mean, so part of me says, yeah, you could move it, and it's not a big deal for them. They're competing against themselves.
Yeah.
And part of me says you could move it and do reshoots if there's some bad scenes.
That's what I'm thinking.
So why not do it? It worked for Rogue One.
Plus, give yourself more time for post.
Sure.
But my concerns for this whole movie is that it's going to be another Inhumans.
That's where I'm thinking too.
Really?
Yes.
This is going to be their Star Wars Life Day. I mean, I hate to say that this is a holiday special kind of like whoa that I'm worried about us seeing, and we all know what happened to the holiday special. It doesn't exist, right? I mean, like it's not there. So is this this is the first time where fans saying, well, I don't want that to be part of the canon. I'm kind of like, well, let's see a Solo, but if it doesn't do well, maybe that's a good petition,
they are fortunate in the fact that it's not part of a trilogy. It's not part of a series.
This is true.
It is a one and done. And if they don't ever want him playing the role again, they don't need to make another Han Solo movie. And they go, okay, we tried it. It was sacred ground. We screwed up. A Boba Fett, much more chance to do something with, a Kenobi.
It's holier than now.
And we get the same actor back. So it's like, okay, we can do that because it's a McGregor again, having aged into the role to be an older Obi-Wan. Fantastic. Sure. But doing the idea of recasting Harrison Ford, maybe that wasn't the greatest idea. I could see them losing, we made $300 million. We made back the budget. Fine, and we're gone, and we never touch it again. And we live with the bad press. We lived through the prequels, and we lived through all that, so they can take more hits.
Okay, so those were our thoughts on Han Solo. Not only that, but Rogue One, pretty much all the Star Wars films. So, like we often have a tendency to do here, we get to on our offshoots. So we'd love to hear from you. Head on over to our website, GalaxyCast.com. Come find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Email us at galaxycast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. And we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back in a moment to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi, because we have to talk about it. So we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, YouTubers, we'll be back in a little bit.
You had it paused.
Yeah, I had it paused, not stopped that way.
Yeah.
I stopped the other ones, and now I have to go back and remash them up together, so it's going to suck. All right, folks, so I'm not going to lie. This might be a long segment, but love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
It's going to be 2 hours and 33 minutes.
Debate. Okay, you guys ready? Bring it.
Here goes nothing.
I was gonna say, I feel like we got a match going on. Vanderfield versus All right, here we go. Hey folks, welcome back to this episode of the GalaxyCast, and we're gonna talk about The Last Jedi. And okay, so before we start,
Is Last Jedi Dillian?
Yes.
Yes,
no,
that's it.
He's the one who killed the
Yes.
last
Okay,
Jedi.
there
He's
you
this
go.
young Jedi killer.
yeah, right. Young Jedi killer Dillian was
Yeah.
The Last Jedi. So how many times have you each seen it? So let's start with that. So Eric, how many times have you seen it?
Just seen it once.
How many times have you seen it, Josh?
2.
2. How many times have you seen it, Gary?
3.
By the
I've
way,
seen
hold
it
on.
twice.
Do you keep calling him Josh?
I do. Sean, I'm sorry. Sean. Wow.
We're gonna correct this.
We will correct this. So Sean, you've seen it
Twice.
twice. Okay. You've seen it 3 times, Gary.
Yep, 3.
And I've seen it twice.
Okay.
So you're the only one
I'm
that's
the
only
one who's seen it once.
Okay. Just want to put that out there. Putting that out there.
Oh, I see what he's
Food
doing.
for thought.
He's already setting me up here.
No, I'm
I
not.
don't
No.
have enough time
No,
to
no.
appreciate.
Okay, Eric, just so you know, 2 out of 3 times I stayed awake.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about The Last Jedi, because this was the biggest movie probably since the beginning of time, at least as far as, Disney's concerned.
It was big.
It was a big deal, and there seems to be. I was surprised because I told you guys I went into blackout mode. So when I was getting ready to go see the movie for 3 weeks, I did not go online. I did not go on Facebook. I did not go on Twitter, which for me is unheard of. I don't do that. That's just not me. And I did that because I was so afraid that spoilers were going to come out. And according to all my friends, they did. People came out the week before who had gone to the premiere out in California and told everything, and everything was out the week before it came out. So I'm kind of glad I went into the blackout that I went into.
Are you friends with Ryan Morelli and?
I am.
All right, he squashed a ton of spoilers.
Did he really?
Yes. Anybody that saw out there with him and all that,
Yeah.
and they were talking about it. I don't know how he did it, but he got stuff deleted and everything.
Good. I mean, part of me said that was not right. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
get you're a fan and you got a chance to go see it, and
You're excited and you want to
Right.
talk about it.
I had some friends who were just like, they didn't say anything at all. Good for them. I'm so glad they didn't. And then I had some friends that just came back and were like, bleh, and like they had diarrhea in the mouth. They just let it all come out. And I was like, really? You could have hung on to that for just a week. I mean, seriously. Would have been the end of the world. So, initial impressions. So let's talk about that first. Eric, up or down? I'm just going to initial impression.
I'll
up
tell
or
you right
down.
now, I am sideways.
Okay.
I am a sideways thumb.
Okay. And what was your Sean? What was your initial impression?
Also sideways.
Sideways?
Yes.
Gary, what was your initial impression?
I'm a thumbs up.
And that's the weird thing. I was a thumbs up too. And that's the thing I was shocked at when I went online after the fact. It was either thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah,
There
I
was
saw
really not a lot of people in the middle.
I saw a lot of hard thumbs down.
Yeah, I mean, like
angry,
like
thumbs down.
angry to the point that I don't know if you guys caught on. There was actually a petition at
Yes.
change.org
To remove this
demand
from
The Last Jedi from being canon anymore. Now, first off, I was kind of like, come on, guys, this is Disney. I mean, do you not think they calculatedly put this movie out there, knowing full well that there were going to be some upset fans? Now, I have a theory about why I think some of the fans are upset, and well, let me put it out there. Let me see what you guys think about my theory. I think the group of fans that are most upset about this movie are probably the ones that grew up around yours and Gary's generation, that Star Wars as a child started off as this like wholesome movie, and by the end of every film it was kind of happy-go-lucky. Everything was good with the world when you walked away from a Star Wars film. Even everybody says, well, that's not possible. Empire Strikes Back was an awful ending. I'm like, no, it was a good ending, because when you think about it, at the very end, Luke walks up to Leia, he hugs her, he puts his arm around her, they look off into the universe, and it's about what's to come. I mean, they're going to go get Han. Everything's going to be good. Everything's going to be okay, right? Like, you still had this feeling that everything was going to be all right, even though you know Vader's Luke's father, and all this bad stuff had happened. Han got taken off in carbonite, all these bad things, but there was still hope.
It didn't feel that way. I'll tell you, seeing it at the time, it did not feel like hope.
As a kid, I think we had a hard time with
As a kid,
that.
it felt like devastation and what
I
are you
get that.
doing and this is not the way it's supposed to end and I hate this movie.
Yeah, as a kid, I didn't like Empire.
Really?
I was disappointed big time. And so that's why I think, maybe I'll change my mind about these films as well. But no, as a kid, I was like sad about the end of Empire. So
Yeah, the ending I hated, but
Really?
yeah, because what's off on it? One, a cliffhanger.
It did, partially.
So it's like to be continued.
You didn't get that a lot back then. You didn't
No, you
get
didn't.
cliffhanger movies.
This is true.
Right. And to be continued type
Yeah.
feel to it. It's like I hate that stuff.
Okay.
Well, I think back when we were watching them, you finish what you were going to say. And
So part of my theory is what Rian Johnson did was kind of blew up the typical Star Wars story arc. There was not a angst at the beginning, which built up to a problem in the middle, which then got resolved to a nice happy ending at the end. You know, that the typical story arc that George Lucas always liked to follow. He didn't do that. It just didn't happen. Matter of fact, it was very up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way through. And I think he did that on purpose. I think he was trying to break some people of that story archetype that they're so used to having. And it's not just Star Wars. When you look at most movies, most modern movies, even things like Lord of the Rings, even things like, the modern Star Trek TV show, Discovery, very much goes in that story arc mode. And so I think Rian Johnson was trying to say, but life is not like that. It's not build up, angst, repose. Instead, there are good moments and bad moments, and man, they jump and they happen all the time. And so I think he's trying to present a different thought process to Star Wars fans. And I think the problem is older Star Wars fans are so set in their ways, right? Like, we expected Star Wars to be a certain way, and he broke out of that big time. I mean, he went way outside the box on that. And then the newer Star Wars fans are like, this is awesome, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, this is so great. And so I think part of that was that. The other part of it, I think, was people who hated the prequels hated this. Because I think there's a common connection here between the way the prequels were presented, fast-paced, moving all the time, but then also some slow moments in the middle of that this was told almost like that. So I found that a lot of people who hated the prequels hated this movie. If they loved the prequels, they kind of like this movie too. So there's kind of, I think those are the two interconnections where I think some things happen. Just a theory I have. What do you guys think?
Well, what I was going to say was,
Eric looks around the table.
When we were, the original Star Wars, it was a lot of white guys in it, True. And from what I can tell, a lot of people, and I don't agree with these people, but they're very disappointed that it wasn't exactly like that. There was, every time they saw minority, they were taken out of it, like, oh, this minority was put in here, just to make a statement, and, there's too many females in the movie. I feel like a lot of people didn't like it because of that, and I certainly don't agree with that, but I think that's a thing.
I was actually thrown off because Variety magazine put an article out about 2 days after Last Jedi came out, and they were praising Star Wars for being so female-centric and for putting the female, they even referred to it as the female-first ideal finally into science fantasy. And I kind of went, but I didn't see The Last Jedi that way. I didn't see it as female first. I don't see Rey as a female first character. I don't see Rose as a female first character. I saw the story arc, and maybe it's just the way
characters too.
Right. Maybe it's just the way I look at the universe or look at the world. I don't see people in colors. I don't see them in genders. I just see them as people. And so part of me was like, I wasn't looking at it from that perspective, and I actually was a little upset about the article because I was like, how dare you look at the movie that way? It's just supposed to be actors and actresses. Like, who cares what their gender is? Who cares what race they are? Who cares what role they're playing? Like, I guess I wasn't even thinking about that. I don't see Finn as African American. I know that's crazy. People are like, what? How could you not? I'm like, part of me just says he's an actor. Who cares whether he's African American, Chinese? It doesn't matter. He's purple, green, blue. I mean, that's the cool thing about Star Wars. There's alien creatures all over the place. Who cares? Like, who cares? I mean, some of the coolest guys we've gotten to know in Star Wars are things like Bossk, which is an iguana type creature. I mean, breaks out of the mold of everyday, people. I agree with you. I was kind of thrown off by people that were like, well, this movie sucked because it put females first, or it put, African Americans first. I didn't see any of that. I did not see any of that at all.
Yeah, I was surprised. I did see it. I certainly noticed that there were more minorities and more females in the movie, but it didn't bother me. I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was late, and I was happy to see it. But I think it did bother a lot of people.
I don't think it bothered as many people as the media made it out to be. I don't think that's the problem. At least not what I read on like Facebook accounts and reading around and talking to people. The one thing I saw that was like a common thread amongst everybody, well, there was two things that they didn't like. First off, they didn't like the treatment of Princess Leia. That seemed to be a common complaint across the board. The big complaint was the scene where she's out in space and she pulls herself back into the ship.
As it's being referred to, the Mary Poppins moment.
The Mary Poppins moment, right. So let's talk about that for a minute. What did you guys think of that scene? Because it was very, I mean, it definitely was out there.
I didn't like it.
Yeah,
I didn't like visually how it was done. I don't mind what it represented. I liked being surprised by her being a Force user and having an ability.
Okay.
I think the visual way the scene was put together was heavily flawed in storytelling.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought, well, at first I thought, oh, she died. This is how they're going to end her character. And then she came back, so I was surprised. But I also was okay with the idea, but visually I was like, oh no.
Right, yeah. I mean, I even think I said to you in the theater, Gary, I think you heard me say, well, I guess that's how a princess goes out. And you chuckled because you knew what was coming next.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the way they were going to me, part of me said that would have been a great way.
Exactly.
It would have been a great way.
It would have been fitting, in my opinion, and I would have been okay with it.
I would have been okay with it. And now that they brought her back, it was kind of like, and I have to admit now, part of the Star Wars community is screaming, going, well, what do you do now?
Yeah, because she is very heavily, at the very end of the movie, she's talking to Poe, there's ideas in mind, and she's not going to be in the next one. Disney has said they don't have footage of her.
Right.
They're not going to recreate her digitally.
Yeah, there's no 3D model rendering of her.
What are they going to do to not have her in the story that's not going to feel like a disservice to the story?
And since then, Mark Hamill has come out saying the third movie was supposed to be her act.
Yeah.
She has admitted it was supposed to be all about
Well, look at how
Leia.
they've set it up. The first movie was all Han. The second movie was all Luke. The third one was going to be her.
Leia, yep. Gary, what did you think?
I didn't like that scene either because I didn't like the Mary Poppins part of it. I think she should have been more fluid, like she's swimming through space would have been okay. I would have been okay with it that way.
Here's another way I look at it. So, just the up and down of her status. She's in the ship. She's sucked out. She's frozen solid.
Yep.
She defrosts. So apparently now the Force works like a defrost button. You can melt ice off yourself.
Yeah, but it doesn't work as good as my car's defrost right now.
She flies back to the ship, clearly conscious and in control of herself, but gets to the ship and goes into a coma.
Wait.
So why was she unconscious, then unconscious again? It didn't work for me. I said a better way to have solved this issue would have been to have the explosion happen, see stuff get sucked out, not see her visually get sucked out. Have the doors slam shut to block the airlock, have Poe run to the door, and he looks outside shocked, and he screams to someone, get me a suit, and you see that she's out there surrounded by, still in the cockpit, not sucked out, surrounded by what looks to be a held area of atmosphere and like bits of pieces floating, but not conscious. Yeah. She's done it, but to do it, she's in such a meditative state, she's out. He gets her, brings her in, sets her on a table, and all the stuff that's floating around her, it's like that moment's broken, falls to the floor, but she stays unconscious. The audience would have been worried about her all the way through, and still worried about her. Is she ever going to recover from this? But instead, now we've seen her be powerful and pull herself back and then go unconscious again, and it kind of jumps you around. I just felt like that scene, I'm fine with the idea of it. I was awful with the execution of it.
So you ready for this one? Follow me on this one. Here's what, now that I've seen it twice, the second time I went back and when I watched it, here's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean, the same look on her face, because maybe just because I'd just seen Guardians like a couple days before, but it's the same thing that happens to Star-Lord. So he goes out in space, he loses, he freezes over his face. It's the same look. By the way, it's the same digital effect. It's the exact same one. Yeah. And considering Disney did one, why couldn't they use it on the other? And the only thing that made it weird was in the Guardians movie, he turns around, the ship comes by, picks him up. Where in this one, she does the Mary Poppins, she turns around and she floats back.
And she defrosted somehow.
Right. So part of me said you could have solved this a couple different ways. First off, why not have her... She could stay conscious. I would have been okay with that. Why not have like a mask float by? She grabs it, puts it on, uses the Force to get to the door, knocks on the door, passes out, they open the door, she falls in. That would work for me.
Even that would work, yes.
Mm-hmm. So part of me says, I get what you're saying, Eric. It is kind of weird. But I do kind of get the whole, like, she's in a coma now. Like, part of it I was saying, okay, she's used so much of the Force. that's how she ends up back in the coma. But the initial coma doesn't make sense.
That's that's why I didn't like it. Was this flow of how she acted and reacted to the whole incident just didn't work.
I just think it was a poor choice in directing style and the way they decided to pull that off.
And I almost feel like some of those choices were made in post after she passed away, and they wanted to give her this almost angelic moment to kind of pull on the heartstrings of the audience and connect with her as, that's our princess, the powerful character, blah, blah, blah. I think that's why he did it. It was almost a tribute moment.
Yeah.
But it didn't work with the story.
I'll give you that.
And was she breathing because of the force field or because of the force?
I don't know.
Yeah, it just seemed weird that she was breathing out in space.
Okay, want to blow your guys' mind now?
Go ahead, Gary.
My theory, after this goes on, in the future for Leia,
Yeah.
she died right then. Instead of being a Force ghost where you can see through her, just like with Luke being on the planet getting shot at and everything.
Mm-hmm. She projected herself?
Yeah.
But why project herself into being in an unconscious state? Oh, well, wait, no. So she's saying she never flew back?
She came back into the ship when she was.
And she died on the table.
Well, she died between floating back into the ship and all that.
That's really hard to do because you need some sort of visual to close that out, and they don't have that. It's almost like that should have happened at the end of when they were flying away in the Millennium Falcon. She should have disappeared then, and they could have realized she'd been dead this whole time, and that would have been a way to end it. But to now do it between movies or do it in the crawl, the next one.
Actually, when Luke gave her the dice.
Right. She held I mean, that's why another moment I didn't like. She held a.
We're gonna talk about that too.
And then the dice hit the floor and then disappeared.
Right.
That's because she was a ghost.
No.
What you're saying.
She set them on the table.
But dice still disappeared.
Right after Kylo picked them up, and he.
That's true.
Then they vanished.
But that's where he's like, Mom died.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's an interesting theory. I'd never thought of that.
That's tough.
So here's the other complaint I've always seen about The Last Jedi: the death of Luke.
Okay.
And everybody's saying, how could he die? Why would that kill him? When he's done all these other things, why would Force projecting himself suddenly just kill him off? And part of me says, first off, what Jedi have you seen do that? I mean, planets away.
Yeah. Okay.
Galaxy away.
Okay, you got the distance, and then all the firepower that got shot at him.
Right.
Right, it's taking its toll.
Right. And he's old. I'm sorry. Truth be told, he's an old Jedi. This was the last waning moments of him using himself. And I get, people are like, well, why not have him come in on the X-Wing? That'd have been so cool. Part of me says, again, he's old. He would not have been able to react in an X-Wing the way he could as a Force projection. I think this was like the best way to have Luke go out. He's using the Force in the most powerful way he can to save the people that need his help the most. So after all this begging that Rey does that he ignores, and after all this pleading to save the galaxy, and he keeps insisting he doesn't want to do it, I think to me it was the most fitting way for Luke Skywalker to use his powers and then be done and to pass on. And I get why people are upset. It's Luke Skywalker. I get it. We don't want to ever see our childhood heroes die, but part of me says it's got to happen, especially if we're going to clear the way for Rey and Finn and Poe and all these other characters to continue on later on. So I mean, you got to clear the way.
It does seem like Jedi go out on their own terms, kind of. They kind of do what they want to do, and then they disappear. Qui-Gon did not go out on his own terms. He, was stabbed and didn't disappear. So I think maybe he was just also ready.
Yeah. Yoda was ready. When he died, Kenobi was ready. The ones that aren't prepared are the ones we don't see disappear. Mace Windu was not prepared. It's why we only see him go out a window and get electrocuted.
He's not dead anyway, so.
Well, as far as we're concerned, he's still out there. I mean, it could still be. So there's some other questions that we have to debate here. First off, what do we all think about porgs now?
Such a big deal was made out of them. They were just a side. They weren't like a plot point or anything. They were just a side thing. So they were fine.
I think Chewbacca should open up his own franchise.
My only problem with the porgs was the cooked one that Chewie was eating was not realistic enough for me.
It looked like a cartoon turkey.
It looked
cooked.
like a cartoon.
It looked like a dog
plastic
toy.
turkey.
I kind of wish he'd eaten it though.
I do too.
Like it looked right at the pork and gone, and started eating.
That would have been more in line with Chewie, and that's
Right.
I do have a problem here. I don't feel like Chewie felt like Chewie this movie, and I know it was played not by
Peter Mayhew,
but he didn't have the same mannerisms. He was kind of a side character.
I almost feel like the guy
away.
needs to go back and like study Peter's movements.
Yeah.
Because there's certain ways that Peter moved his neck.
Tilted the head. The
tilted his head. The roar always was with his head back.
Yeah.
He always was slumped over when he walked a little bit.
The only part I liked Chewie where he was Chewie was when he busted Luke's door down.
Yeah, that was an okay
that
moment.
felt like
Yeah.
Chewie, but
That's about the only moment they gave him. Yeah, he was flying the Falcon at the end, but it almost wasn't about him flying as much as it was about Rey
shooting in the back. Yeah,
And that's another moment where I was like, can we give Chewie a bit of a moment here, you know?
Yeah, he did feel like he was.
We've got almost 3 hours. Let's give these people
He
some
did
moments.
feel like he was in the background more than normal.
Yeah.
And that's for sure.
That's the thing that bothers me about both, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's not so much what they did, but what they didn't do. And what they didn't do is have Chewie be a bigger part.
How come we never saw Chewie sit down in the Millennium Falcon and look at the empty chair next to him?
That would have been a moment.
The dashboard, something. Give him a moment that he's suffering. But no, it's like they kind of almost forgot the Han died this whole movie, and it just happened. I mean, in our timeline, it's days ago. I think
days,
at max,
Yep.
and there's no moment for Chewie to be reconciling. There's no one sees. If Luke takes it, just kind of okay. Han's dead. We never really see anymore.
Part of me says he doesn't have time, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, because of the situation that's going on with the rebellion or the resistance.
Luke?
Not Luke, but Chewie. I'm saying, like, because
Maybe, but he's sitting around cooking porgs. Give him a moment.
this is true.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think of the backstory now that we've heard about Rey? I mean,
Also didn't like that. But then
She's
again,
just-
there's the rumor that it's not true, that Kylo saw something and isn't telling her. Rian Johnson's come forward, and his point was to be he wanted to pull it out of the Skywalker lineage. He wanted to show that anyone could be the hero even from nothing. It's supposed to be a more positive
what's wrong with
story
that?
arc. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I really, and this is my problem, I really feel like J.J. Abrams did his typical thing he does, like he did with Lost. He said, I'm going to come up with a lot of cool concepts and not explain them.
Right.
I'm also not going to have planned them, but someone else can run with them. And so he
Right.
did that. He set up a mystery, and for 2 years we asked who was Snoke. He set up Rey, and for years we asked who's her parents, what's her lineage. He set up all these he set up Kylo Ren and showed a bit of the Knights of Ren, and we were like, my God, who are these characters, and what happened with the school, and blah blah blah. And it's a known fact that the only thing that Rian Johnson said was, I want you to end the movie like this, with
Yeah.
the whole standing there with the lightsaber out, because
yeah.
I have a way I want to start it.
Yep.
And then he does his little joke with tossing the lightsaber.
Yep.
And this is where I worry that there's not a communication going on here. There's a man setting up a bunch of ideas that he intended to be put out, and there's Rian Johnson coming along saying, well, like you said, life's full of up and downs, and sometimes things aren't explained. I'm going to take not just a couple things, but like everything he set up and throw them all out. Wow, isn't that going to be different? And to me, it's don't be different just for difference sake. Have a story to replace it, which I don't feel like that is what was there. It felt like they were throwing things out for the sake of throwing them out. And that's my main problem. And now, all of a sudden, who's coming back to direct the third one that originally wasn't going to?
JJ.
I'm wondering if he's looking at this now and going, God dang it, I wanted the Knights of Ren to go somewhere. I wanted something to happen with Snoke. I wanted something to happen with Rey. And I'm wondering if he's coming in, because he's in charge of writing the third one too.
Correct.
If he's going to try and put some of those things back in. Because I almost feel like he didn't know that was maybe to an extent, but he didn't know everything, the way it was going to be treated. And I almost feel like he's coming back being like, no, I don't want that. And this is what makes me, it just feels like a fighting within the creativity of each movie. It's not a trilogy, and it's not telling a connected arc to me. It's being kind of pieced together as they go, almost. It's what it feels like to me, and these are some of the problems I have with it. I don't care that Rey's a female. I don't care, in the way that Kylo Ren's whiny or whatever he is. He's still a cool character. I'm interested in him. I'm still interested in Rey. I don't like that it feels like they're not putting the thought into Lucas knew. From the moment we met Darth Vader, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to make Empire, but if I do, that's Luke's father.
Right.
And that whole first movie, he knew that. He at least had some plans in place. I don't feel like they had plans in place, and now they're kind of just doing it as they go, and I don't like that. I feel like these stories deserve more thought. And that was kind of my big overall issue.
Okay.
So I'll step back.
So part of me says, I'm in the opposite boat with you. I actually think it was brilliant what Rian Johnson did to an extent. And they'd been telling us all along, if you really listen to the actors and actresses and even JJ himself, they kept saying, Snoke is Snoke. Rey is Rey. Don't expect anything from these characters. And they kept talking in interviews and saying that. And Star Wars fans are like, but there's got to be more. There's got to be, Rey's got to be a Kenobi. And then, but what I think JJ and Rian were trying to tell people all along was, this isn't about Skywalkers anymore. Like, that's the prequels and everything before this was all about the Skywalker lineage. And I think what Rian Johnson's trying to say is, why is it always about Skywalkers and Kenobis? Why can't it just be about the average person?
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
That's great. He's got a whole new trilogy coming to do that with. But we're now 8 movies into a 9-movie arc. Mm-hmm. Why at the 8th one do we go, we've had 7 that have been heavily involving these characters. We have 2 more to go. Let's now throw it all out.
But we haven't. We haven't. They did set up who the next person is.
The next
Jedi.
Well, they're saying Rey.
No.
Who do you think? Kylo Ren?
I know who it is. It's the kid.
Well, okay, yeah, but this kid is, again, we don't know who this kid is.
He's contracted for 5 movies.
The little kid?
The little kid.
That's great. Why is this little broom-pushing kid all of a sudden in the 8th of our 9-arc story?
I'll give you that.
Why is this going to be suddenly the important thing when we can't finish out?
Think about this. This kid's a slave on an unknown planet in the middle of nowhere.
That's great.
That nobody knows nothing about. Kind of like a boy on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Who is a slave that nobody knew anything about. So part of me says, if this kid's contracted for 5 more movies, which he is, by the way, that was released, I think, about a couple days ago at this point. It's not huge public knowledge. It was just kind of in a little article somewhere in England that this kid got contracted for 5 movies. So part of me went, aha, aha, there it is. That's the kid that we're. So part of me says Rey and Finn and Poe and all these other characters are go-betweens, as you want to call it. And I think down the road we're going to look back and we're going to go, Rey was Rey. Like, Rey is
then here's
what
the
Rey
thing.
is.
Why are we taking the major movies of a 9-arc movie
I get what you're saying.
telling the story about go-betweens? We should be telling the stories about the major characters.
But you see, I don't think it's about the go-betweens. I think it's about killing off the previous generation. They have to get rid of Han.
You know what? That's fine.
They have to get rid of Luke. They have to get rid of Leia.
That's fine, but I just feel like they are not telling the cohesive story they could be telling.
Okay.
I have issues.
Go ahead, Gary.
Kylo Ren is the Skywalker lineage.
Correct.
I still think Rey is Kenobi. I will always,
you and I know.
I always will say that she is. And this little boy on this little desert, this rich planet, as a slave, is another Skywalker.
See, I was happy actually that she was not a Kenobi or a Skywalker, because I
was too.
I felt like that was going to be too much.
Yep.
And so the fact that she wasn't, I was, that's good. So I was good with that, and I was also okay with Snoke not being somebody that we had heard of before, because we see characters all the time that we hadn't heard of before, and I felt like that was fine.
Okay, yeah, we see characters we haven't heard of before, but we don't necessarily make them running the New Order. And somehow they put it together. They came from somewhere and put all this together and are a massive force, a powerful force-wielding character. There's a backstory there we're not going to be told, unless we're going to do it in cartoons or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we've set this character up to be the mystery box that JJ likes to do. And to not at least maybe let the character be an ultimate villain longer than a cut in half. Oh no, again, it's different. We weren't expecting it. That's great, but it feels like it's hard to explain, but it feels like not different storytelling. It feels like bad storytelling to me. It feels like mismanaged events that don't quite cohesively form. And I know what you're saying. He's almost telling this in more of an independent film approach.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the mind that Star Wars movies are not supposed to be told as independent films because they're space opera.
Right.
There is an epic feel to them that kind of is what makes them what they are. And if you want to do that with a Star Wars trilogy, that's great. You got your new trilogy and do it. But to do it in the middle of, we did 7, and 7 was clearly to pull back the fans, because how much of it was Han Solo, and how much of it was Princess Leia, and there's Chewie, and we're tying in all these old characters, and we're making major parts, and we're going to kill off Han Solo. The movie is a retread of Episode 4, which I've told you my issue there. So 7 was clearly supposed to still be paying attention to the old movies. Why all of a sudden is 8 not?
I can answer that. I think they listen to the fans. Everybody great to complain. It's way too much like Episode 4. What are you doing? So we ended on Rian Johnson, and we say, okay, don't do what he did.
Right, and here's
so he went the other direction, and all the fans that didn't like the Force Awakens went, wait a minute, that's too far.
Well, that's the thing. To me, it's clearly a case of overcompensation.
It is.
But
part of me says, now, if I'm a Disney producer or I'm a Disney person, I'm going, well, what do? You do something just like the films, and nobody likes it because it's just like the films. You go way outside the box, and everybody's like, I don't like that. It's way outside the box. How do you win? How do you produce a Star Wars movie that somebody, and this is where I think my generation, your generation, we're kind of stuck in the middle in this weird spot, like, where I kind of feel like either we're all going to accept what's going to come out as a Star Wars film, or we're not. Like, some of us, I think, and I'm not knocking what you're saying, Eric, I get what you're saying, I do. Part of me, the first time, said, wow, I feel that way. But then when I saw it the second time, I kind of went, all right, if I can kind of look past some of these little things that are really, on my mind, I can be okay with those, and I can look at this movie a little bit more. And that's why at the beginning I was trying to say, like, how many times have we seen it? Because I think you might change. I'm not saying you're going to be completely, like, in love with the movie the second time, but you might change your view a little bit second or even a third time, being like, all right, now I see.
I get that. It's a drastic difference, and sometimes you got to get used to that.
Right.
I have other issues with storytelling moments. Can we talk Laura Dern for a minute?
Sure.
And Holdo. First of all, and Sean has mentioned this before, why give a role like that to someone so recognizable?
Yeah, I know.
So that you granted, little kids might not know who she is. That's fine. We didn't know who Peter Cushing was when we saw Star Wars.
True.
We weren't familiar with his.
He called her Laura Dern.
Not Laura Dern. What's her name?
No, but you call her Laura. Yeah, I call her Laura Dern.
That's how we see her. And then granted, maybe that's going to be what the older crowd would, and the kids don't see her that way.
Right.
To me, you want to take risks with Star Wars. Why the heck didn't you take that entire role and give it to Akbar? Oh, you can't have a fishy character and Mo. Hell, take the risk. Make that character important. Make him fight with Poe. Make Poe going, I'm questioning your motives now. And you've got a history, and have that guy go out with the big light speed moment.
Can I give you a semi-practical answer to that?
And all that connection would have made that moment just. That's how Akbar goes out.
Can I give you a semi-practical answer to that? Yeah. And I'm not saying it is, but it might be. Akbar's face prosthetics don't show emotion well. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get that. In the old one, you can modify that.
And I get that. It would have meant
He's gotten older.
Right, so they would have had to completely retweak all of that.
More eye movement, more... Right. I don't think it would have taken a lot.
I know what you're saying. Part of me says that would have been quite a challenge to put in front of a prop shop. I'm not saying Disney can't do it. I mean, heck, their Hall of Presidents is some of the most amazing animatronics out there. But at the same time, it's a challenge. I'm not saying it's not a cool idea. I like the idea, actually. I had not thought of that. It would have been a cool idea. I agree with you.
I just think there would have been... It's this character who we don't know, who all of a sudden is apparently really important.
Right.
Has a connection with Leia. Acts like could be a villain, but even to the point where there's a mutiny, but turns around and takes the ship back. And it just seemed like, why are we giving so much importance to this person that's coming and going, and that we know nothing? And granted, I've heard, there's more about her in the comics, there's more about her in the books. That's the issue I always come back with.
Yeah.
These major tentpole movies shouldn't have to rely on the side materials to tell their story.
I got another solution, though, that you might like. What about Leia's daughter? What about Carrie Fisher's daughter? She could have been another person that could have filled that role in fairly well. And you could have been setting her up for
if she
taking over the role.
If she was stronger in Force Awakens... and not just sitting in front of a screen, I would have been okay with that choice.
Right.
If she was of slightly more presence in Force Awakens, because then again, we're getting those follow-throughs, we're getting those plans that look like... I'll guarantee you that while the Force Awakens was being done, Haldo had not even been imagined. No one imagined who this character was.
No.
There was no plan for it. But I would like to have seen some of these follow-throughs thought through a bit, you know?
I get what you're saying.
That's my problem, is it feels unconnected. It feels like we're kind of just making things to make them, and yeah, that's cool, but it doesn't cohere to me.
So let me ask you this question. Again, I'm just being devil's advocate here. Did you feel the same way about Mon Mothma?
In what, Star Wars?
Return of the Jedi.
In Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, because all of a sudden this lady comes out of nowhere and she's telling them what to do. You're going to go here, you're going to take care of the shield generator, everybody's going to go in and attack, this is how it's going to work because I'm in charge and that's the way it happens.
Right, okay, no I didn't, but she was clearly, they basically
Again,
set
I'm
her
just
up.
being devil's advocate.
No, that's fine. She was set up as the leader of the rebellion,
Right.
who we hadn't met.
Right.
And I think we'd heard the name before, hadn't we?
I
mean,
don't
was
believe...
the first time we heard Mon Mothma when they walked in there and said, "Here's Mon Mothma"?
Yeah, I think that's the first time you ever heard her mentioned in a Star Wars film.
And people say the same thing about Boba Fett. Like, well, you don't know. Well, Boba Fett was supposed to be mysterious. That was his coolness. But I'm okay with that with Mon Mothma because other than giving some plans and some exposition, she didn't fly a ship and destroy the Death Star.
Correct, yeah.
She didn't have that big emotional moment that they tied to this character.
Right.
She was an exposition character, and that's okay to meet a character who's going to give exposition and be a kind of a side thing and vanish. I'm okay with that. I didn't know who the guy was going, General Nadine, here's how we're going to destroy the Death Star, and I'm going to give you all the exposition on these maps, and that's how you're going to do it, and you pull the plug. And that was, I was okay with that because he didn't do it himself, he was just exposition.
Right.
They gave her such an emotional moment. And I'm like, does this character deserve it? Because we don't even know who she is.
Right.
Now, let me ask you this question. If she had white hair, and they called her Winter.
Winter? I don't...
She was Leia's servant in the Timothy Zahn trilogy.
Right. I was thinking the same thing, Gary. I thought it was an homage to Winter, too. I really did.
I kind of remember that, but I read those books so long ago.
Yeah, she was also like rebellion intelligence.
Yeah.
Is what she was. All right, if they'd called her Winter, I'd have been 100% okay with that.
I really do think they could have done an old tie-in and it would have been okay.
Again, I still said, you want to take the risk. If you're saying, hey, we're doing this because we're going to give you things that are different, give that role to an animatronic and make it work. Make it a character we care about.
And part of me says it might have just been poor actress choice. Laura Dern just may not have been the right person.
I didn't like her costume either.
Part. I didn't either.
It was like an evening gown.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel right.
Evening gown, the purple hair made me think of a teen dyeing their hair.
I was thinking the same thing.
Didn't seem...
Now,
every picture I saw of her, and then I heard about this Canto Bright place, I'm like, oh, she's there. She's one of the...
I thought she was
That's the look of it. I thought she was going to be one of the elite who's at this planet. And then when I saw her on the ship, I'm like, is there a casino on the ship?
Yeah.
And again, that's expectations.
She didn't look general-esque, and that's kind of the weird thing. Even Leia, when she's in a dress, somehow, still looked like a general. And I
mean, was this supposed to be a bit of a playback to Leia in the single white outfit with the strange hair? So they said, let's do a single outfit with the strange hair, but it didn't feel princess-like.
I agree with you.
And she wasn't supposed to be a princess. She was supposed to be a general or whatever she was.
Right.
So, no, I had problems with Haldo.
Okay, does anybody have any issue with the aliens?
Which ones?
The lack of?
I slightly. When they went to Canto Bight, I was expecting a lot more, like, alien-esque type things going on. And there were quite a few, don't get me wrong.
And aliens that we've seen before.
But yeah, what I'm saying, I was just about to say, where's the ones we're looking for? Like, where's a Gamorrean? Where's a... I don't know. I was looking for anything that looked like aliens we've seen.
I felt like Maz Kanata's place was much more Star Wars-y
than that one.
Canto Bright.
I will give you that. Yeah.
And I know they're trying to say Canto Bright's a different type of place. It's where the rich go, and it's supposed to be this, I get the storyline they're trying to present you. But visually, I didn't like it.
I would have loved to have seen a hut.
Yeah, especially as a rich guy.
That's a rich place. Throw a hut in with an entourage.
Yeah.
I mean, let's tie it together to Star Wars. And I know, throw everything out. Throw the baby. But to me, they threw the baby out with the bathwater. They took some of the core stuff and they said they went too far.
That whole Canto Bright thing, they could have thrown it out.
People will argue with you that and this is the argument I've seen, that's the emotional heart of this movie because it's Finn's story arc. Finn goes from someone thinking only of himself and escape, or thinking of Rey, to by the end, he sees what Canto Bright is, he sees the rich, he begins to understand why the downtrodden are the way they are, he comes back, he gets captured, he fights Phasma, she calls him scum, he says, I'm rebel scum. He says that line, and it's supposed to be this big moment where he's a rebel. He's going to fight for a cause that's not himself anymore.
I'm going to go one step further.
Isn't that great? I had to be told that to catch it.
But
you shouldn't have to tell me your story points. It should be presented in the story.
But I got to go one step further, though. I think later on, we are going to see the implications of Canto Bright through the boy, through the slaves, through the other things that they presented. Now, I get what you're saying, Eric. You didn't get that from this movie. The first time we went to Tatooine, we didn't get that from A New Hope. It was just a dirty, dusty planet we wanted to get out of in order to get to the Death Star, right?
Right.
So part of me says they were trying to do it that way. I actually think they may have spent too much time there.
I think they did.
You know what I'm saying?
It was a major plot.
Get in, get out would have been my philosophy on the storyline for Canto Bight. Just to present it and then get out with the idea that that's something we got to come back to.
Here's another quick problem I have. This is a sheer technical one. And then I'm going to get back into Canto Bright for another reason.
Okay.
One sheer technical problem. This entire movie is a chase scene.
It is.
It is a slow motion chase between the
First Order and
the Rebellion.
Well, the Resistance.
And apparently, this made the movie feel really small. You're telling me the entire Resistance is this group of ships, and the entire First Order is this group of ships? Because couldn't the First Order jump someone in front of them? It's a straight line. Let's just put some of our other ships from elsewhere in the galaxy in front of them, and we got them. It felt the logistics of it. Mm-hmm. And a major plot point of why this was going on. I get it. They were setting the tension up of everyone slowly running out of fuel and falling back, and we're down to the last ship. But logically, it made no sense because it made the universe feel small. It made it feel like the entire First Order that somehow is threatening the entire universe or galaxy is this small group of ships chasing this small group of ships. So I didn't like that. I also didn't like that this chase, which is apparently very important and very dangerous, ships can jump in and out of it, no problem. These guys can hop in a ship and fly to Canto Bright and come back. Rey can fly in and get in. These guys can fly in another ship and get into Snoke's ship. It's like people got in and out of this chase really easily. Mm-hmm. So that bothered me because it took away the chase, you know. So all of that leads me back to Canto Bright, and a question I have for you guys. What did you think of Benicio del Toro's character and the whole plot of him?
Part of me says he's plot bait for later. I really think that's... I think they were trying to get his foot in the door. I don't like Benicio del Toro to begin with. Maybe that's part of my issue with him. I didn't like the character at all. Mm-hmm. I think they're trying to present him as another Han Solo. A scum guy who's going to do whatever he does and not do, what everybody expects him to do. I think eventually he's going to come full circle, almost like Han did, and end up saving the rebellion in some way down the road. But Benicio del Toro, not Harrison Ford.
Right. Well, here's the other thing.
Can't pull that off.
Han Solo never betrayed the entire rebellion.
Right.
That's kind of hard to come back from. He got hundreds of people killed.
And there is implications. They've already implied, JJ's implied, that character is going to play a major role in his movie. And if they try...
As a bad guy, hopefully, because that's all I can see.
If they try to do it, part of me says you can't redeem yourself from thousands of rebels dying in ships that you told the First Order about being cloaked. How do you come back from that? You can't.
So they fly to Canto Bright. Mm-hmm. First of all, every movie we've ever seen, you fly into a port and you land.
Right.
These guys land on a beach. And apparently that gets them arrested. So that whole plot point, like, what? You land on a beach?
Yeah.
And you get arrested for it later? It just seemed like...
And the ship, to me, looked like Anakin's from the Clone Wars, too, by the way.
I will give you that.
They get thrown into a cell, and it happens to be with a guy who's perfect to break the codes and get him into the... It seemed way too convenient. They've got this entire town... And they get thrown into a jail cell. The guy's like, well, I'm a code breaker. I can do exactly what you need. Let me unlock all the doors and get us out of here.
Would it have been better if they didn't get arrested? They found the guy with the tux. They convinced him. He came back and everything was that way? Would that have been better?
Yes, to me, even though it's more straightforward.
Yeah.
It would have been better. I still would have liked if the guy ended up not being the guy they were after. If somehow Benicio del Toro was the character, but they didn't just like run into him in a cell. It just seemed kind of like way too convenient.
Sure.
You know what would have been awesome in this situation? That the guy that had the red flower was Lando Calrissian.
Yeah, and that's what
I was half hoping.
People expected that was going to be it.
The best slicer in the galaxy was Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
That, to me, that would have been, or somebody else along that lines. Actually, I was half expecting somebody like Greedo. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's like in the middle, like walks a weird middle line, like I don't know, one of the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back. How cool would it have been if it was Bosk?
IG-88.
Or IG-88 or something like that. Like, how cool would it have been?
Here's something I would have been better with.
K2SO, I don't know. Here's rebuilt.
Here's something I would have been better with. They go to see the guy with the red flower. We see Benicio del Toro's character hanging around in the background by him, listening to them as they're saying, hey, we got to get, that's our guy. They get arrested. He ends up getting arrested too and thrown in a cell next to him. He lets them out. They escape with him. Come to find out, he's the guy they were looking for all along. The guy with the red flower is a decoy. And he was standing in the background listening.
Right.
And surprise, surprise, we did get the guy we needed. He found us.
Right.
Because he uses this decoy.
And you would have been okay with that?
I would have been okay with that because it would have at least made sense that he keeps the decoy around, he overheard them, so he got himself thrown in jail on purpose to go with, something to connect it rather than just he happened to be there. When the storyline is he happened to be in the same place you had to go, I have problems. It's just too convenient.
Okay. So let me ask you guys about this, because we spent a lot of time on Canto Bight. How about the storyline between Luke and Rey? And just the whole planet of Octu, right? I think was the name of it.
What get into it, by the way?
Right.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's waiting for that one.
So, what do you guys think of that one? I mean, what did you think of that whole storyline?
I get it. It was very Yoda, Luke-ish from Empire to an extent. Different still. I saw some concept art of what Octu was supposed to look like originally. Some of the stuff that Lucas was looking at before he left.
Yeah.
I liked that concept art better than what we got because it looked more Star Wars to me.
Okay.
It had the kind of domed, almost Jabba the Hutt-esque palace up on a hill, kind of overhanging. Still had the same kind of island feel with the steep cliffs and stuff, but it had a bit more Star Wars than stone huts.
Right.
I wished it had looked a little more Star Wars to me. And I do end up having the same problem that a lot of people have with Rey in wondering, why is she so powerful with no training?
I was hoping that he'd be Yoda. He was going to be the master now, or Obi-Wan, and he's doing it, and I wanted to see him like that. And so I wanted more training. I wanted, maybe they needed a montage. I don't know. But,
montage!
But he had 3 points for her, and I was like, oh, what are these 3 points going to be? And
what were they?
I think we got 1 point.
Yeah, reach out or whatever.
Yeah, and so I wanted more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like that. But I wanted to see just more of that, and I felt like we didn't get that much, and that's one of my complaints about her before. A lot of people's complaints is that she's just very powerful very quickly. And as somebody did explain, she is the balance to the... Well, they kind of explained that in Last Jedi. She's the balance. So
you know what?
The more powerful the dark side got, then the more powerful.
And I would be fine with that description if she was being amazed by what was happening to her. Right. If she was acting differently. If she was like, and failing at a couple points, like not doing something strong enough, or learning her ability. Instead, she seems to be very everything's so natural to her at the point where she's just confident, and I'm going to dive into a fight with Praetorian guards, and I'm going to be fine, and I'm going to win it. And it seems like she should be more shocked by this increase in her abilities and stuff, other than just a line where she's like, I don't know what's happening to me. Great, now show it. Don't say it to us. Show it to us. Good movies don't explain to you their plot points or their character motivations or how their characters feel. They show you so you get more emotionally invested. And I felt like so much of this movie was telling you points, telling you things that were going on. And if she's rising up, if she's supposed to be getting this power, show these incremental power bursts where she's surprised, and we get the tie-in. We get that there's this balance happening, and she's being almost yanked along to a fate that's bigger than she expects. Rather than, from the get-go, she's a perfect pilot, a great gunner, and can now move the side of a mountain in about the same time that Luke couldn't even lift his X-Wing out of water.
Right.
So it's like, even Anakin, when he was supposed to be one of the most powerful Sith, users, whatever, we didn't see him doing major stuff for years until he developed his abilities.
Right.
So I know the line is supposed to be the dark happens, the dark rises, the light rises to meet it. And they're almost using that as a crutch just to make her a powerful character rather than building her into a powerful character.
You know what the other thing that bothers me about that? As a teacher, in order to learn, you have to make mistakes.
Yes.
Has she made a mistake yet?
That's my problem.
I don't think she's learning. Like, part of me says, as a teacher, you have to make mistakes. Luke couldn't lift the freaking X-Wing out of the water, and Yoda lifts it out, puts it on the ground, and Luke says, I don't believe it. And Yoda says, that's why you fail.
Yes.
There's the learning moment for Luke.
She hasn't had a learning
She
moment.
has not had a failure yet. So if you're winning all the time, and I have this discussion with my students all the time, if I'm getting 100 on everything and everything on anything, then I'm not doing my part as a teacher, am I? Because you already know it all.
Right.
So she's not pushing herself beyond her boundaries. She's not seeing how far she can go. So she's that perfect straight A student, which I'm not challenging her then. Yeah. Or Luke isn't challenging her then. So who's challenging this girl?
Now, the problem I have is that people tie that to her gender. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, it's because she's a girl and they're making her perfect.
It's not about that.
Switch it. If it was a guy character doing all these same things, I'd still have a problem with the character because the character is not growing and I'm not attached to it. So take gender out of it. I want to see a character, and this goes back to the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, the inspiration for Star Wars.
Right.
The flawed hero.
Right.
The hero has to overcome some sort of flaw within themselves to advance. Luke had his disbelief, his novice, the world was new to him. He was like we were as kids. He experienced things and experienced the bigger universe, and we experienced it with him. She's doing the same thing, but she's walking it all into it like I own it already. I can do all this.
All right, so propositioning an idea for you. What if her flaw is the fact that she's perfect all the time? She thinks she's this amazing Force user, and that's what makes it easy to tip her to the dark side. Because now we've got, ultimately we have a new Supreme Leader. We have
Kylo
Ren, a Supreme Leader.
He's going to need an apprentice.
He's going to need an apprentice.
Right.
He's had a relationship now with Rey.
Great. That sounds like a great idea. Do you think in a million years it's going to happen? No. Disney will not turn her. They will not have her go dark, and they're not going to have that happen because that's not what this story is about. I don't see it happening. If it happens, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong, and it's a shocking twist. But they're not going to do stuff.
It would be an awesome twist, though, too, right? Like, don't you think? I know all the females in the world would go, "Oh my God, no!" I don't care. Really, I really don't care. I think it would be cool to see Kylo Ren convince her to come to the dark side anyway. He comes really close in this movie. In that scene where he's like, just join me, we could rule the galaxy, we could do this, she seriously considers, when you see that scene, when you really think about it, she almost does join him. Just to try to bring him back, because that's her ultimate hope here. And part of me says, maybe, they're setting up her strength to be your ultimate weakness.
She's going to be the new hero of the third movie. She's going to be the Jedi who she rescued the book, start a new order,
she probably will,
whatever. Her storyline has been too easy.
Yeah.
And Luke lost a hand, been beat up, damaged, scratched up by a wampa, almost frozen to death in the snow. Things happened to him that he overcame.
Right.
She's not getting damaged or suffering or growing from those bad experiences. She's just moving through this thing like a snowplow, pushing everything out of the way. And to me, that's weak storytelling. I don't care if it's a girl or a guy. It's weak storytelling. That's why people go, Kylo's interesting, and I've grown to like that. Kylo is a very interesting character because he's so freaking flawed.
Yeah,
he's horribly flawed.
There's multiple flaws with it,
and that's cool. I'm interested in seeing. At least I'm interested in seeing where he grows to. I'm not interested in Rey right now because without some big reveal like her parentage, her lineage, whatever they're going to do, or nothing. It just seems like greatness thrust upon her without the weight of it, almost. It feels weightless to me.
Okay. So let me ask you another question. What did you think of the whole Luke Skywalker walks in to Kylo Ren's, and we got two perspectives on this whole thing. It was really weird that they tried to tell you both sides of the point of view, but somehow it still ended up being the same story.
It was the same story. In one, he was like lifting the sword to kill him, and in the other, he just lit
it up.
And then he went, "What am I doing?" And he stopped himself.
Right. So, ultimately, Luke admits this is what he did. He walked in, he had planned on killing Kylo Ren because he sensed the dark side in him, and Kylo defended himself.
Right.
So part of me sat there and walked out the second time and went, who's in the wrong? Was Luke in the wrong? Was Kylo in the wrong? Part of me said, we still at this point don't know, had Luke finally touched the dark side that he decided he was better off killing a student than hanging on to him? Is that what pushed Kylo over to the dark side? Was Luke coming after him?
And what if we had? I was gonna say, what if we had seen more of the school, of the time there? And again, this is telling a different story than what they told,
Right?
And that we're not seeing any of this. But what if Kylo being so dark, Ben Solo being so dark, that it almost infected Luke?
Yeah.
It tainted him by being around it so much. There was a
Right.
dark presence in that school for a year. And as it grew, it affected him to the point where he finally reached out. That dark force wanted him to kill.
Right.
Because it wanted Luke to turn. But in the end, he stopped himself. If I'd seen all that, I'd be fine with the scene because the darkness always tempts the powerful. But we didn't see any of that happen. Again, we're told it.
Well, instead, I think I'm thinking back to the Palpatine saying that Palpatine had, which was, in order to go to the dark side, you have to embrace your emotions. And so I think Luke had finally embraced his anger at Kylo for being the guy who was turning to the dark side. To me, that was a sign that maybe Luke had turned. And then he scared the crap out of himself. And then went, okay, that's it, no more. And then, walked away. Remember, Rey said he disconnected himself from the Force. No Force. It wasn't in him. It wasn't around him. He completely disconnected himself because I think he actually scared the crud out of himself that maybe he was starting to be like
his
Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a disconnect, and that, to me that was kind of a cool thought process,
That'd be an interesting story to see.
He definitely thinks he's the one who caused Kylo Ren to be dark. Yeah, so that's why he was so grumpy and, depressed and rant. I don't want to see Luke depressed and grumpy. I was disappointed because I wanted to see him happy, but anyway.
And go ahead and explain it, with Han and everything, what you said to me about all the characters.
Oh, just the trilogy in whole. I just wish that we had seen one last adventure with, the three main characters together and happy, not divorced and depressed and dead.
Yeah, everything we're seeing is negating Return of the Jedi.
Right.
From to the point, Luke and Leia, not together, and they have problems.
Right.
And Han Solo, gone back to smuggling and kind of hiding out in the universe, dealing with horrible people who hate him. Luke, hiding away forever. R2-D2 shut himself down for 20 years or whatever.
Right.
It's like...
Even C-3PO's got a new arm.
I will never be able to get over the fact that they sat down and had Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford all agree to come back to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we're never going to put them together, though. Let's do it that way. Let's get all these major actors to recommit, and we're not going to, have them interact.
Okay.
To me, that's like, why did you think that was the best for your audience? You could still tell all these same things and still have the problems with the son and all that, and not give them your characters to be the characters a little bit, even a little bit. So to me, that's just like I hate when directors do that. It's almost like they feel like, well, we know the better story to tell you. This is the way we really should tell it to you, and you're going to like this. And to me, it feels like you're kind of, and yeah, you're the director, you're the writers, you're dictating, but you're not being, to me, true to the story in a way. And who knows? They could still, if these guys they could do with a little de-aging.
Sure.
They could put a scene in the last movie where we saw the three of them before they all split up.
Sure.
Great, you could give us that, I guess, but now it's kind of past the point, it just feels, it's very hard for me to explain, and I know a lot of it is expectations, and a lot of people say it's the older generation not happy with the changes, and the kids, younger generations are loving this movie, and they're huge fans of Kylo, and they love Rey. I get it, things pass from generation to generation, but it does seem odd to me that 2/3 of this trilogy was fine for the older generation, but the third is not. It's like, why not give the third to everybody as well, the older and the newer, and finish that off, and then go tell your new stories that end the 9 definitely leading into a new generation. But it seems like they're doing this at this weird halfway point in a third trilogy, and it just seems like bad pacing.
Okay.
Now, I think with the Luke going to kill Kylo there, I think that's a lot of reminiscent of Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Oh yeah.
Where Obi-Wan actually fought Anakin where Luke didn't play Kylo or Ben in this aspect. Obi-Wan knew his failure with Anakin. Luke was seeing it too, and he realized if he did kill him or attack him, fight him, it'd just make him more powerful than what he was already.
Yeah, I get that.
That's my whole thing.
But here's the thing. Ben had seen Anakin murder kids. So
right.
He's like, I am going to go fight you.
Right.
All Luke had seen, and yeah, we don't know what he saw in Kylo.
Right.
But I don't think Kylo had murdered anybody yet. Or else he wouldn't be lying there asleep all comfy in the school. I think there'd be problems. Well, so I feel, unless it was something he did out on an adventure and came back and Luke learned about it. But again, this is all stuff we have to kind of guess at. We don't know.
Well, you need to see the Force vision or something that Luke saw then.
Something. I mean...
No, that's... I honestly think that Obi-Wan knew that Anakin was turning before he actually turned.
Well, I do too. Yep.
All right, and that's where he failed himself. Where he failed, right there.
I think he sensed it a lot earlier. Actually, I think he sensed it by Attack of the Clones when Padme fell out of the ship, the gunship, and Luke wanted to go, or Anakin wanted to go back for Padme. Yeah. I really think right there is when Obi-Wan finally realized Luke is not emotionally here.
Anakin.
Or Anakin. Why do we keep saying that? Anakin wasn't emotionally here.
What do you think about that, Josh?
I would say...
Sorry.
He's
never going to live that down.
I would say he's seen it earlier than that, when they're in the elevator going up to see Anakin.
Well, yeah, that might be... Yep. Yeah.
He senses it.
I sense you're going to be the death of me yet.
Yep. Yeah, he even says it then. Yeah, you're right.
So...
And I do think the Luke story, to me, in this whole movie is about redemption, ultimately. He fights it the whole way, but doesn't he redeem himself in the very end? I mean, to me, that whole last scene was about the redemption of Luke Skywalker, finally. Right. Even though we're mad at him, even though we're pissed off that he walked away from the Order, that he would push Kylo to the dark side, that he'd be dumb enough to walk in and light a lightsaber up, to even think about killing a student. Ultimately, this is like Darth Vader throwing the Emperor down the shaft. This was Luke's moment for redemption. And to me, that proved that he's not his father. Because otherwise, Luke Skywalker is Darth Vader. He's no better. He is the bad guy. He is the guy who pushed somebody to the dark side. He is the guy who did all these bad things, ultimately, in an effort to do good. But
and I'm fine with that being his story arc. I'm not as fine with... His big redemption was, hey, I'll distract this guy, you guys go out the back door. That's his big redeeming moment. Not some rescue of... people say he rescued them all. It was just a distraction so people could go out a back door and fly away. It didn't feel like enough. I'm okay with him pushing himself so hard that he and then being at peace with himself and vanishing. But it also seemed a weird disconnect. Like him saying to Kylo, I'll see you around, kid. As if he wasn't going away, as if he was still going to be around. And I guess some would say the Force Ghost. He's going to be, since
he'll be back.
He can be a Force Ghost, and he can now start. Is the third movie going to be him hovering over, like a voice inside Kylo's head?
The sparkly glowing.
Is it going to be something inside Kylo's head or something? Is Kylo going to see him like he's been seeing Rey and be like, go away, I don't want to talk to you? And is that going to happen in the next movie?
It'd be so funny if he came back and started talking to him in a Joker voice.
Oh gosh.
No, he's going to come back shirtless. And Kyle's going to be like, can you please put a shirt on? And Luke's going to be like, what's wrong?
Right.
Take it in.
I'm just Kyloing.
With a robotic arm.
So let me ask you guys this one now. What's your favorite parts of this movie? Because let's be positive for one.
No, that's fine.
Because I think there was a lot of good in this movie.
Yeah, the Praetorian Guard fight.
We've only talked about bad
stuff. The Praetorian Guard fight.
You liked the Praetorian Guard fight?
The entire fight. I came out of that going, that was awesome.
Okay.
That, I loved them working together.
Yeah,
I love that moment where it's like, okay, what's going on? That was a moment that worked for me.
That was kind of weird because he's good.
I was okay with that confusion. I was good with that confusion.
I actually liked that. Yeah.
It was a neat moment tied with good action.
Yeah.
I also liked the throne room. First I thought it was weird because it was red and you couldn't see the end of it.
Right.
And then through the fight you realize, it was like a screen. And
right.
I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think here. Things I liked unconditionally.
Yeah.
I unconditionally liked R2D2 replaying the Princess Leia.
That was kind of cool.
Message.
Great moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Luke saying, "What are you trying to do to me?" You know, like
low blow.
This low blow. Yeah, I did like that.
I liked how they were affectionate with the droids. They really liked their droids, and previously droids were not something that you would pay much mind to. So I thought that was cool how they
It was almost like all of a sudden they realized droids exist, hey, there's droids and I should care. Gary, what did you think? What are your favorite parts?
The very beginning with the assault on the Star Destroyer or the Dreadnought, whatever it was there.
Okay.
I like that, but the only problem I have with that whole thing though is being the First Order and all that, why would they fire on the ship first and then fire on the planet?
Yeah.
In the game.
Right, because then they can't escape. Right. They did it in the wrong order.
I liked, absolutely loved the way it was filmed, the way it was presented, and the soundlessness
of the ship.
The ship going to light speed through Snoke's ship. That scene was one of the more epic moments I've seen on screen in years.
Did you hear what Regal had to do?
Yeah,
because of
signs.
That? They had to put signs up telling people, yes, there is no sound in this part of the film.
10 seconds.
For 10 seconds. Now, part of me said that was a great throwback to that Jango Fett bomb.
Yes, I love that.
From episode 2. It was my favorite part of that movie.
But exaggerated to
Right, but exaggerated to even longer.
Yeah.
No sound, no nothing for 10 seconds. I mean, it felt like an eternity. But it was so cool.
Now, the part that I like the best, though, is everybody that commented about that scene, ooh, that's the first time we've ever seen it happen. Mm-mm. No, it's not. Where's the first time we've seen it?
Trying to think back. Didn't they do it in Star Trek one time?
No.
No? Okay.
It's in Star Wars.
It's in Star Wars.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we did see him light speed out with the Millennium Falcon out of a ship and destroyed the monster and stuff. But what are you thinking?
The aircraft carrier Rebels that took out the indicator destroyer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they jumped right into it. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah, that's right. So maybe that was a throwback to Rebels a little bit.
Oh, that was a Filoni episode.
That was a Filoni episode. Imagine that. You were all over that.
That's right. I was the only one, too.
So I did like Luke's reaction to stepping out, being shot by the walkers, and then coming out, brushing his shoulder off, and the start of the fight with him and Kylo and stuff like that. I didn't quite like Kylo's posturing. I didn't quite get why he was just leaning, jutting his face forward, and it was a weird kind of. I guess it was supposed to make him look like a tantruming kid.
But I think that's been his fighting style all along. If you look at even back in The Force Awakens, his fighting style was with his sword back and his body leaned forward. That seems to be a style he was taught.
He's a brutal fighter.
Yeah, it's not. It seems like his fighting style is not elegant.
It's very much like you'd fight with a broadsword.
Right.
It's larger. It's blocking in larger strokes,
large motions,
not fencing and martial arts style.
Correct.
I do like it.
I think that's the difference there, and that might be what's throwing you off. Is we haven't seen that with a lightsaber before.
But it's not necessarily a lightsaber. It was the way his body. He had his face really far forward, like he was. I don't know. It was weird, but I did like Luke's entire reaction in that moment.
Now the character that I got a lot more respect for is General Hux.
A little bit, yeah. He actually, you're seeing he's in a hard. Granted, he's running a horrible group of people who are neo-Nazis, basically. Yeah. But
he's in the middle.
You see how hard he's got it trying to deal with Snoke and with the people around him. And now
I actually thought it was kind of funny when Kylo threw him. I mean, like against the wall. That's the one thing I actually kind of liked about this movie. As weird as it is, the humor was actually well put.
I was okay with it. Some people said it was too funny. I was okay with it.
I thought it was great. I thought Poe ripping on Hux at the beginning was awesome. I loved that.
I don't know. It was a little. His dialogue was a little. He should have just been like, "I can't hear you." That whole "I'll hold."
I know.
I didn't like that reference, but I liked the whole "I can't hear you."
I thought it was hysterical. I really did. I thought it was great humor. I thought Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. I loved that. I thought that was great. Like, I don't want that thing anymore. I'm no longer even connected to the Force. Get this thing out of me. There was a whole bunch of humor like that I actually truly kind of appreciated, because in amongst all this crazy, action that's going on, there's quite a bit of humor going on. We don't see that a lot in Star Wars films,
One bit of humor I can't say I liked was the iron coming down like it was a big ship.
Oh,
it was like straight out of Hardware Wars.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't know. That one didn't work for me.
I forgot about that one.
I know a lot of people liked it, but I felt it was misplaced. I felt like it was better in a Funny or Die sketch or something.
I think it actually was an homage to Hardware Wars.
Yeah, I think
I really do.
It probably was.
But I thought, in context, it was a little bit funny. I don't know.
No, people laughed at it for sure.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of the humor worked on me, and a lot of it didn't. So, whenever it didn't land for me, it took me out of it, and so I was very aware of the humor the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the reasons why I'm half and half, because it was good in many spots, but then not so good in other spots.
Okay, 2 words. Green milk.
Unnecessary scene. Just, it pulled me out. I know it was trying to show him, it was trying to turn him in kind of like a crazy old man, is what they were going for. But the creature sitting there like a human with what looked like breasts and squeezing it.
Well, they were. I was going to say
but it didn't look like an udder. It looked like
it would have been better if it was an udder.
It would have been better if it was a creature on all fours with an udder and did it and drank it. I'd have been fine with that. They kind of pushed it into a weird direction, and it seemed unnecessary.
And then the woman in the not the cantina, the
Canto Bright,
the
casino.
Yeah, she's got what? 13, 14 breasts, and
I guess I didn't notice that one.
You didn't
I'll
notice
go back
that?
and look for that.
They zoomed right in on her, and it was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, another.
I think it's the same species as the one dancer in Jabba's palace.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was, watch it a third time. You'll see it. It's surprising.
Okay, I got a question.
Gary, what'd you think of green milk?
I just laughed at it.
I did too. I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was funny, and I know it puts you out of the moment, but I actually kind of liked the fact that it put us out of the moment.
And the look on Luke's face when he looked at her and his milk.
Well, I think he gave Ray that look almost like so what you gonna do about it? Like kind of like what are you gonna do about it?
Then she looks at the whatever it was there, the creature there, and it looks back at her like, what?
And so here's the part where I was half expecting this. I was waiting for every female group in the world to go, that was not right, because you're taking advantage of a female while watching a female Jedi for a future female Jedi looking on, and part of me said that was kind of like a big middle finger to that moment, but nobody caught on to that. So here comes the email for us. Yep. But I caught on to that. Maybe that was a moment where nobody caught on to the message that was being sent there. You had a question. Go ahead.
What do you think of Phasma and how she was treated in this movie after her treatment in Force Awakens? Because they keep putting in the magazine spreads with all the major characters. They're treating her like this major character.
I still think she is.
So you think she survived?
No, I think she survived. Oh yeah.
No body.
No death.
No body, no death.
That's the rule. Matter of fact,
that's why we think Han Solo's still alive.
I think she becomes a Boba Fett-esque character now. She's gonna be scarred underneath a helmet somewhere, almost Darth Vader-esque, I think, actually, and I think that's gonna be what enrages her. I think she's gonna be on the hunt now for Finn. I think that's gonna be part of the storyline for the next movie. Phasma wanting revenge about being badly burned.
So the end of Force Awakens, she was mad at Finn because she was thrown in the garbage, and now the end of this movie, she's being mad at Finn because she got burned. So the end of the movie is she keeps being mad at Finn because he beat her.
Correct, but this time I really think she's got a serious bone to pick. Being thrown in the trash is embarrassing. Yeah,
and then you have to escape an exploding planet.
Right. Okay. So that's embarrassing enough. But now she goes in the fire. She gets burned. She gets wrecked. Her body's destroyed.
He ruined her mask.
Right. He ruined her mask. She's mangled. Part of me says now she's really this is this is serious moment. This is coming out of a Sarlacc pit moment.
The next time they meet up there, she's going to kill Rose, and then the two of them are going to go off running happily ever after.
Okay.
This is why you don't write movies, because people would be like, who wrote this?
Dave Filoni did.
Right, exactly.
What the Filoni, huh?
So, any other positives of this movie? I saw a lot of other positives I like. I like the throne room. I did like the Praetorian Guards. Part of me wonders, were the Praetorian Guards the Knights of Ren?
I wondered that too.
And we just haven't told that part yet, or we just haven't revealed that yet. Or maybe they left that MacGuffin out there on purpose so they can explore that in the next movie. I don't know, maybe. But part of me said, if you counted up the Praetorian Guards, there's more of them than the Knights of Ren, though. That's the only thing that threw it off.
Wasn't there?
There were 8 Knights of Ren in the movie, but there were 12 guards.
Okay.
So that's why I was kind of like, maybe not. Because I made sure to count the second time I watched the film.
When I saw those concept arts for those Knights of Ren, and the different styles and the looks of them, and the armory, and the names of them, use that. That's fantastic. I want to see that.
I don't think it's out. I really don't. I think that's the next movie. They got to go somewhere with something.
I still think it was a flash forward. I still think that's what she was seeing.
You might be right.
Was a future event where she fights the Knights of Ren.
And well, either she fights the Knights of Ren or they are the new Jedi Order. I mean, that could be another thing too. I don't know. That it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
She has to fight the Knights of Ren, and the Mandos show up and take them out.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be kind of cool, actually.
Oh, sorry, I was interrupting your positives.
That's okay. So for me, I did like that scene. I liked the humor. I liked Rose to an extent. Part of her character bothered me a little bit just because of the way she came into the storyline.
Yeah, she seemed way too bubbly and also oblivious.
Yeah.
Like comedy movie oblivious.
I've had girlfriends like that, though, I guess, so that's probably, I was kind of like,
and then the way Finn acted, though, like the whole, let me stand here lean, casually, and block my back, it just seemed it seemed too comedic.
Yeah. But, I mean, without Rose, the whole scene at the end doesn't make any sense at all either. So, part of me said you had to have Rose in order for Finn to have angst in order to create that whole story arc. At first, the first time I watched the movie, I did not like that final scene with the attack on the base, on the planet. It just
her T-boning him, which would have killed him.
Right. I mean, there's just
should have killed them both.
Should have killed them both. Yeah. There's just so many things about that. It seemed very Lord of the Rings-esque with the big old, rammer for the battering ram for the gun.
It's Death Star technology.
Right. I mean, so part of me said, but the second time through, I was actually able to accept some of it and be like, you know what? Yeah, they would have built up technology over time. There's some things that would have implied that technology could have been used. And part of me also said, I'd heard rumors, and now I'm hearing some more confirmation. The ending didn't go out the way they had originally intended. So let me explain an ending they had thought about, and let me see what you guys would think about this one. The thought process for the ending was, instead of just Luke going out there, it was going to be Luke and Leia. So Luke would force project, Leia would force project. Leia would go out to talk to Kylo. She would fail, and Luke would be forced to physically confront Kylo. All through force projection. And that both of them would be gone. They would both disappear. And Rian decided not to do it because he was too afraid that if he killed both characters, the fans would hate him for life because he killed the two main characters that anybody ever loved. And so he didn't want to do both. So he figured killing one kind of left him not so much in the bad light. Do you think that would have been better to have Leia and Luke out there trying to convince Ben's, Leia's son to turn back? Would that have helped to improve that last scene?
I would have liked that if she was out there not force projecting. I would have liked if she went out there to talk.
Got killed.
No, Luke shows up. If he can force project, he can move her with the force.
True.
He pulls her out of the way and protects her, and does the thing with Kylo. But here's the thing: we're never going to get to see Ben talk to his mother. There's no dealing there like he did with his father. So there's another thing they've lost out on because of the passing of Carrie Fisher, and it's like they're waiting.
Yeah.
On these, tell us those moments again. Show us these things.
Part of me says they may have had that planned, but
and that's
now,
now
they're kind of,
and that's the problem.
They're kind of foobarred at this point, and that is part of me says a lot of this is messed up only because Carrie Fisher died. I mean,
okay, wait.
A lot of us really are looking at it that way.
Here's the point. Here's the point. Then, if he originally was considering, possibly killing her at that moment, then it's pretty clear there isn't a planned story arc for her. They're making that part up again as they go because there was a big possible point where they were thinking we could just kill her here. Oh no, we shouldn't. That would be bad. Okay, we're going to tell more story with her later.
That, from my understanding, that wasn't to be clear in early ratings when they were sitting down talking in rating talks. That was a discussion that was had very quickly, but thrown out from my understanding because they did want to give her an arc.
But if they're considering that, then clearly there wasn't a plan from Force Awakens.
Well, no, there wasn't. I mean, as far as like Carrie Fisher
Right.
having the third arc, they didn't plan on that. Actually, my understanding was it was supposed to be a Han, Luke, Chewie arc, which may be what they end up doing in the long run.
maybe
here.
Chewie's going to get a big part in
Maybe
the third
Chewie's
one.
going to finally have his film in the third one.
That's the only one. That's the only important character they have left to kill. To
Well, I mean, to old fans.
To round out the old fans,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, well, R2 and C-3PO.
But they're not. I don't know if they'll.
I would be
destroy it.
heartbroken if R2 and C-3PO were gone.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, that would be a punch to
Yes.
the gut I don't think I can handle.
Here's the thing. I probably would be more upset to see R2 get destroyed than I was when Han Solo got stabbed.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Because
saying.
of the way they did it.
Right, I get it.
But I'm going back to Force Awakens. Sorry.
3PO can go out. It'd be all right with me.
Oh my.
Especially with his arm. Good.
I still think my theory with Leia is what they're going to go with.
Which is what?
That she died when the bridge got blown
When the
up.
bridge got blown
So
up.
not only can Jedi force project while they're alive, you're saying they can force project when they're dead.
Well, I'm just saying instead of becoming a ghost, all right, she was made herself solid.
It's just weird
because she'll never be gone. She'll never come back again.
Right.
You know. So
But here's the thing: Luke, when he force projected, he couldn't. This is what's weird. Why could he touch Leia but not be touched by Kylo? Why could he create actual dice that kind of exist but then fade? It's like, is it a projection? Is it a reality? Is there matter there? Is there not?
is it real or is it Memorex?
It seems to be like they're kind of making up the rules as they go.
And part of me, so part of me says, maybe it's a Santa Claus thing. It's what you believe. If you believe Luke's there, then you can see and touch him.
Kylo believed he was there.
But if you don't, then it's kind of hard to. But Kylo's clouded by the dark side.
He believed so much, he tried to attack him and kill him.
Agreed, but he's also clouded by the dark side. His anger is what clouds him.
And he himself never really touched him. The
Right.
saber did, but
The saber did, but not him.
not him.
Again, now we're getting really picky. And if you're going to have your if you have to have your fans
just saying
try to
it's a
talk all this
thought
out,
process.
it's weird.
Just hear me on this, because when he came up later, after he stabbed him right straight through.
Well, then he knew.
Then he touched him.
Right.
And then he is that's when he's knew. See you around. Bye.
And that's when suddenly he believed Luke wasn't
Right.
there. And that's what I'm saying. Like it's a Santa Claus thing. I call it Santa Claus effect. So if he put his saber through him and he's not there, and then he touches him, he's not there. All of a sudden, he believes he's not there, and that's when Luke's like, "See ya," because now he knows his projection no longer is working.
Did you notice that he was younger?
Yeah, I noticed. I did notice
too.
that.
He force dyed his hair.
He got a haircut.
I didn't catch the first time too that he wasn't making any footprints in the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed
And
that too.
they zeroed in on it, and I didn't even catch it the first time. And then the second time I went, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. He didn't move the sand at all. Of course he's a projection. That would make sense now, you know."
Okay, got a major question for you.
Okay.
The guy that comes up out of the trench, walks across the salt there,
Yeah.
and looks at the microbioculars at the walkers.
He made no tracks in the sand.
They did.
Okay.
Because the guy reached down and tasted it, salt.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
That guy that walked out there. Think it's Rex?
Could be.
I'd have to see it again.
He's the director of Rogue One, right?
No, Gareth Edwards had a bit in it, but it wasn't that
I
guy.
thought he was a guy.
He was in the trench. He was
Salt
next.
guy.
I think he was next to the salt guy.
Yeah, I think it was next to him.
Okay.
No, I mean the guy that walked out on the
You're
sand.
talking about the guy. Yeah. So Rex is a Clone Wars character. If you're not familiar, Captain Rex.
Gotcha.
Who's
One
also
of
in
the
Rebels.
clones.
He's an old guy in Rebels.
Yeah. And-
Supposedly, he's in Return of the Jedi. He's
They have confirmed it.
Have they confirmed it is
Yes,
him?
they have.
He's the old guy that comes out from behind the bunker and tells the Imperial troopers
With the white
with the
beard.
white
Yeah, the
beard
white beard. If you
put their blasters down.
He's a character apparently that goes back to the Clone Wars, and since he's a clone, he's aging slower and he's
Slower.
lasting through all of this.
Right. And so there is implications he could be still alive at this point.
He looks like him.
That's true.
what
I'd
I
have to
said.
see the guy
He
again.
looks like the guy from the Return of the Jedi. Is what I'm saying.
Really? I mean,
Yeah, he did. He really kind of looked the role. I didn't even think about that, Gary. You're right. Now I want to go see it another time and go look at that.
When I first saw it the first time, I'm like,
What do you think of us not getting for the first time? I have a bad feeling about this.
I was okay with it. I think it's an overused line anyway. I'm done with the whole quoting other Star Wars movies. I'd rather we come up with our own quotes now. I mean, like, create new ones.
For me, I was like, oh, that's sacrilegious. You can't take that out. You know, that bothered me a lot. Apparently, BB-8 says it, and we just
Yeah.
couldn't understand that's what he was saying.
Apparently, just before
Yeah.
Poe attacked the ship, BB-8, what he says is, "I have a bad feeling about this."
So I'd be fine with that if Poe had said, "What do you mean you got a bad feeling about this?" You know, something.
Well, they
like
just
that.
put underneath the screen,
Right, yeah.
subtitles. "I have a bad feeling about this."
But so I was disappointed because for me that's tradition, and and
I get the point of this movie was
Break tradition.
break tradition.
I would have liked it. The break tradition would have been awesome if General Hux or Snoke said it.
Yeah, like a bad guy.
Yeah, has
said
a
it.
bad guy's never said it.
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd have been funny if Snoke had been like,
Or perfect time.
"I have a bad feeling about this."
Perfect time. They
Like
shoot
with the
tons of
lightsabers.
lasers.
Yeah.
They shoot tons of lasers. Luke comes out, brushes off his sword. There's Hux. Oh, I've got a bad feeling about this. Right there.
Yeah.
You know.
Even a side character, the guy that was in charge of the dreadnought when the
Right.
bombs. Oh, I got a bad feeling about
Yeah,
this. Before it blew up.
So have you guys heard the big controversy about the bombings? That there's no gravity in space
Yeah.
and that you can't drop bombs.
And apparently, you got to think, well, they're magnetic. They were attracted to the dreadnought, or they were powered and they shot down.
Well, there was another counter argument too that you're within the gravity well of the dreadnought because
Right.
you're around the dreadnought.
What
you're
I
close
didn't
enough.
like was that you're in space. You have massive technology. You can make gigantic ships go at light speed
Right.
and outrun and chase the Millennium Falcon, but you can't make these bombers move
Go any
faster
faster
than
than
this
they-
really slow.
I know, right?
It just seemed unnecessary to me. It's like this scene's just just to
And
draw.
why is there
attention.
still a belly gunner in the smallest belly gun ever made for humankind?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. I talked to somebody who hated all the throwbacks to old technology, like the bombs and the decor of the casino and everything.
Yeah.
And it didn't really bother me too much. I actually didn't even think about there being
I wasn't
no
either.
gravity.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't think about
I
gravity.
immediately
but-
thought about the gravity when they were getting ready to, because it was all this. They set up the verticalness of
Yeah.
it, and they fell, and they had to knock the control down to catch it. And all of this was this kind of directional scene setting up so that the bombs could fall.
Right.
And I'm like, but there's no gravity.
Right.
They've got a fire at the ship to.
They could have used a laser beam.
Right, like to do the same thing.
Well, it's kind of like not using a robot, not using a droid to send the ship into the
Right.
kamikaze.
Everybody, someone has to stay and pilot it.
Right.
Yeah.
It also bugs me that the First Order just didn't send a bunch of TIE fighters to destroy that cruiser.
Right. Nothing. Yeah, you didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
you didn't really.
I just sent like 4 or 5 squadrons at them. If they run out of fuel, they run out of fuel. Who cares?
Right.
That's their main objective, to stop them from getting away.
Okay, so let's do our wrap up. We're gonna rate the movie just like we do our Rebels episodes. So 0 is a don't bother, 10's a must see. I think later we'll save the now would you rank The Last Jedi amongst the other films kind of thing. So we'll save that for later. But so 0 to 10, 0 is a don't bother, 10's a must see. Anybody want to go first? Like want to get it out of their system?
I'll say 7.
Okay. So give it a 7. Yeah. What are your reasons for the 7?
I enjoyed the film. A lot of these criticisms came after, you know.
Right.
It certainly wasn't. I mean, I did watch it. I think my favorite part that I was the most happy was the crawl, like when the words came up, you know, and I was like, Star Wars, and then it kind of faded after that. But still, it's a Star Wars movie. I still really liked it.
Your heart's in it. I get
But
it.
I couldn't give it higher than a 7, certainly. And I definitely liked Rogue One better than this one. So
Okay. Derek, what would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 5.
Ouch.
I
Okay.
am dead middle of it. There's some I liked, some I didn't. I'm not in the passionate haters category, like you said you see online. I'm not, this destroyed my life and whatever. I'm not.
You're okay with it being part of the canon?
I'm okay. I'm not going to ask it to not be canon. I get the themes of it and kill the past, let it die. They're bluntly telling you about destroying tradition. I
Right.
get all that. But my problem with it is not that they did those things, is that it was bad storytelling that they did those things.
Okay.
I felt like they could still do those ideas, but they could have told the story much better. From small things like the chase making more logical sense, to larger things like having the Canto Bright somehow be more integrated with this story, the logistics of people getting in and out of this chase and going to Canto Bright and making it back all while this chase is going on, the logistics of small things, running into Benicio del Toro out of nowhere, and suddenly he's important, he's betraying them, and there was a lot of bad storytelling in what was good themes. I like the theme of, the rich profit off the war, and this is the side of the galaxy you don't get to see.
Right.
That's great. Again, show us that more in an organic way. Don't make it a speech while standing on a balcony by a character we've just met in this movie. I don't like giving Haldo a major role and the big emotional beat of the movie when you could have given it to another character we've known for a while and taken that risk that way. I feel like a lot of these characters didn't really go anywhere. Poe didn't really have much. I mean, he failed. That was his big arc, was he's supposed to be the ace pilot, and in the first movie he was the hero again and again and again. He came in to save the day, and in this one everything he did was wrong and people kept dying because of it. That's kind of harsh. Right. I get it, but it seemed to be a bit overkill, and again, a bit pushing it down your throat, to the point where he literally said the line, "They failed," at the end of his arc, right. Realizing that everyone's failing. So again, I like the concepts. It definitely had some cool moments. I don't mind them crapping on some traditions, but I still feel like they did throw the baby out with the bathwater and went too far, and I couldn't enjoy it more than a 5.
Okay. I'd actually give this one a 9. I loved it. There's a lot of things I loved about the movie. I actually kind of liked the changes, the massive sweeping changes that they presented to Star Wars. I think it was done not only with the idea that they're going to change things, but to homage some of the things that hadn't changed. And I think some of it was done in a way to grab your attention, to kind of slap you across the face and go, you know what? It's not about the Skywalkers anymore. It's not about the Solos. It's not about the Kenobis. It's not about Darth Vader. It's not about the Sith and the Jedi, which I think is ultimately the teardown of this movie. That's why The Last Jedi, they're tearing down the Jedi. They're tearing down the Sith. I think part of what they're going to grapple with in the next movie is maybe good and evil isn't as black and white as we all like to think it is. I think that's ultimately where they're trying to move with this. And so to me, if you're looking at it from that perspective, this movie does a great job in getting you to think outside the box and go, wait a minute, maybe bad's not all bad. Maybe good's not all good. That good creates bad things and bad creates good things, and that there's this weird thing that you have to start thinking like outside of the box of what, and I think that was the one thing Star Wars always did that was kind of weird, was there was a bad and there was good and there was nothing really much in between except for maybe bounty hunters who did things for money. And to me, that was kind of a disservice to humanity, because humanity is gray. There's people trying to do the right thing that end up with bad results, and there are people trying to do bad things that end up with good results, ultimately, in a weird way. And so I think it grapples with that a little bit, and so I'm okay with that. There are some things in the movie that throw me off slightly. I guess I'm willing to accept them a little bit. And then the other part to me that was awesome about this movie, the role BB-8 plays. I think everybody's overlooking the role that BB-8 played in this movie.
I was going to ask you about him. We didn't get to it, but
I loved his role in this movie, because he played a hero at one point.
I was going to say, you're okay with him straight up murdering people.
I liked the fact that the droid piloted ship, blew people up. I liked the fact that he got into the walker and started blowing people up. He straight up realizes he has a role to play. We actually gave a droid almost a heroic role, almost like R2 does at times in A New Hope and in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I mean, R2 wasn't as integrated into the storyline as BB-8 is, but I thought it was kind of cool that when they needed a hero to kind of save the day, they turned to a droid when they could have turned to anybody else, but the droid was the one that they kind of walked to. Again, part of that is my love for the robot too. I love BB-8.
Sonic screwdriver moment.
It was a sonic screwdriver moment. You're right, but you know what? I'm willing to accept it. I watched Doctor Who. I'm good with it, so I'm cool with it. Gary, how about you?
Considering he's middle of the road,
yeah,
and he said he hits a 7,
yeah,
I'm giving it a 6.
Oof.
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Okay.
Yes, there's spots I did like the Holo taking the ship through the other ship there, I like that.
Yep.
The Walker scene, I always love them. They're always going to be right here in my heart. I'm okay
I'm
with
upset we didn't get any salt troopers.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I'm okay with Luke dying the way he did. I still think Leia died on the bridge of the ship, and that she was back as a ghost, but not as a see-through ghost like their other Jedis that passed.
Right.
That become that. And I think in episode 9, I think they're going to, like, where did Leia go? You know, and Poe's going to realize that she died on the bridge. I think he knows anyway, but Snoke's going to come back because I still think he's played.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about what did you think of the death of Snoke?
I still think he's coming back because he is Plagueis. And besides, if Maul can come back and get cut in half,
Yeah.
Snoke can do it.
Well, Gary, tell your theory about Snoke. I thought your theory was kind of interesting.
What did I say earlier?
You said that Plagueis is an embodiment.
Oh, yeah.
It's a. Go ahead.
Palpatine destroyed his body. He's just inhabiting other bodies, and coming back, and the damage that he occurred from Palpatine is what makes the new body that he inhabits looking like he does. And that, okay, Kylo Ren killed him, he's still going to come back, maybe in another body or as a ghost or spirit. If you look at the Legends books and stuff, Exar Kun did the same thing as a ghost and inhabited other bodies and stuff. I can't think of the other.
There's one other.
Ancient Sith. I
I was
can't.
gonna say there was an ancient Sith, and I can't remember who he was.
That did the same thing. I think he took over Exar Kun on Yavin 4.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just couple things. One, I liked how they handled Death of Snoke. At first I thought, oh, that's too fast. He would have seen it coming. But then the second time I watched it, I realized, oh, he was sensing, Kylo turning on Rey when in fact he was going to turn on him, and so I thought that was all cool. Also, something that's interesting about Snoke, I think, is that in that Jedi temple, there's this water dropping into a little pool, and apparently in the Star Wars Encyclopedia, you see a better picture of that, and it's like some kind of guy, and he's half black, half white, kind of like he's both sides of the Force, but because the line down, he kind of looks a little like Snoke. He's kind of bald. He's got a line down him, and Snoke was bald and had a line down his face, and so maybe that was Snoke, and maybe Snoke is just a much bigger part than we're aware of, and we'll find out later.
I mean, part of me, I appreciated actually the way Snoke died. I thought it was quick, painless. I actually was okay with that. I think it actually shows that I truly believe Snoke is all talk and no action. I think that's what they were ultimately trying to show everybody. That he was a Sith who really was all about presenting this idea that he is a Sith. Maybe he wasn't as powerful as everybody thought.
Well, hold on a second.
Was. He was whipping Jedi around.
I was going to say, yeah, Rey is supposed to be this super powerful, growing up, super intense. Wow, I've never seen power like this before, says Luke, except one other time, and here's Snoke playing with her and tossing her around like a rag doll, and she's helpless.
And also, Snoke, if he is a Sith, which they haven't really said he is or not.
True.
In order for Kylo to go to his next step, he's got to take care of his master.
This is true.
So
it follows along with the Sith ideal.
I get that
ideal,
part, yeah.
That in order to become the next master, you have to remove the previous apprentice.
But I still think, like I said, he's Plagueis. He's going to come back, and it's going to take both Rey and Kylo
Ren
to take him out.
I can see that. Or maybe the future is it's Rey and the boy.
Maybe.
That have to take out whatever being that Snoke.
Well, maybe he takes over Kylo Ren. And,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I was trying to imply earlier. I'm wondering if later we're going to find out the spirit left Snoke, entered Kylo's body. That's why all of a sudden the sudden change in Kylo's heart from wanting to work with Rey to join me, we'll rule the galaxy together. What if the spirit went from one body to the other?
But he still was the immature. He didn't act like Snoke. He acted like Kylo, and he still had that obscene hatred for Luke. That
It's kind of like when Spock took over, what was it, Kirk's body, right? McCoy's body. He didn't start acting like Spock right away. It took some time for that to develop, and I'm wondering if over some time we're going to find out maybe the spirit of Snoke rested itself into Kylo Ren's body. Maybe. And that's why Kylo suddenly had all this power and his anger and his rage towards the end of the movie, is it's starting to bubble up a little bit at this point.
Yeah, that's another thing too. When Rey reached out to grab Vader's lightsaber there, Kylo kind of stopped it in a tug-of-war match.
Right.
Kylo wasn't as powerful as Rey was until after
Snoke died.
Right.
Well, no, I think they were equally matched. I
don't think they were.
I think because they always said in the first movie, in Force Awakens, because of the Wookiee wound and the shot is why he wasn't fighting at max.
I don't believe it though.
I don't know. Then this is see, we have to argue such semantics though to jump through hoops to make this work for us. That's my problem.
And the other thing is you hate it.
We're also geeks.
I don't hate it.
No. What I'm going to say, you do hate, because I do it too. I hate it too.
What?
We're going to find out all the backstory shit in comic books or novels. And we shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. I do. And then part of that is because I can't even keep up with the comics myself, and I'm getting them. So I'm like 12 comics behind right now, and I got to get caught up on them. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Okay, so there's where our thoughts on The Last Jedi is. If we haven't talked enough for you tonight, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Again, find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, find us on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on The Last Jedi. I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail. I'm all for it. Bring it on. So email us at galaxycast@gmail.com. You know what? This time put in the subject, The Last Jedi, my thoughts. And we'll let you know what you think. And if we get some comments, we'll talk about them on air, because I know we're still willing to debate this at a later date.
This will continue.
We're
still talking about Force Awakens 2 years later.
We are.
Heck, we're talking about prequels.
We are still talking about
10,
prequels.
15 years later.
Yeah, even New Hope, 40 some odd years later. So, as we like to say here in the Star Production Studios, may the Force be with those who listen.
The Shatterpoints.
I'm not going to do it.
Because Dillion's already been mentioned.
Yeah, we talked about him too much.
Okay. All right. Thank you, YouTube land. We'll see you guys next time. Sorry for the long episode, but hey, it was totally worth it, wasn't it? See you all next time.